And we're live, probably. I don't know. Let's see if this works. Hello, everybody. It's the Drinker here. I hope you're having a fine evening or afternoon, whatever the hell you're doing. But thank you very much for joining us this evening. I'm joined on this little live stream tonight with by Nerdrotic and Bowlestrek. So hello to you, gentlemen, and thank you for coming in tonight. How are you both doing?
I am doing awesome. How are you, Gary?
I am great. It's honored to be here once again with the Drinker and with you to talk about all the fun stuff going on in pop culture, all the inspiring, fun, thrilling adventures, not subversive at all, just having a good time.
Yeah, I rather naively started or ended 2019 by saying I think the tide is turning, and I think we can all look forward to a better future with movies and TV shows. And it's just the end of January, and how wrong I was.
Oh yeah,
guilty as charged of that as well. Maybe it's just a hangover. I don't know. Hopefully.
Yeah, I know all about them. But then the solution to that is just to never stop being drunk, and then you can't get a hangover. So it's fine. Yeah. But no, we've all kind of touched on a lot of these things over the past couple of weeks. I know we've kind of looked at Star Trek Picard, done our own videos on it. We've done videos on Doctor Who. What are your thoughts on these shows? I guess maybe if we start with Picard, perhaps that seems like a good place to kick things off. What do you guys feel about the show so far? How do you think it's shaping up?
Well, I haven't done my video on it yet. It's still in production stage. But needless to say, I have not been impressed. I will say the one good thing, it was nice to see Patrick Stewart, even though we have to see him in this. So goodbye, the legacy of Picard. But I think the show has completely bastardized Gene Roddenberry's vision and what Star Trek stood for. So I guess the future is no longer hopeful. I guess Starfleet is now Donald Trump and evil, and they can dictate who lives or dies. So I don't. Maybe I'm mistaken. Well, outside of STD, which I don't consider canon anyway. But yeah, I don't recall this happening in Star Trek before. So this is 2020 Star Trek, which I have decanonized. But yeah, I think it's kind of shit, and the CGI is 1993 level. I don't know if you saw in the last episode when they were showing, I think it was Greater Boston. I actually had a good laugh out of that. The characters are bland, except for Picard, and yeah. So I guess I'll start it off there. I think it is crap.
Yep. I'm right there with you. The bottom line with really everything that's going on, we've all said this in our videos multiple times, but what we do here on YouTube is repeat ourselves and state the obvious. It's part of our thing. Is the writing. Good writing can convince me of anything. Good acting, good performances. And the flaw with Picard, while it's not as bad as Star Trek Discovery, you can't use that, or I can't use that as an excuse. Star Trek Discovery is the bottom of the barrel of everything, right? It's actually worse than Doctor Who in a lot of aspects. It's the subversion of everything. It's you talked about Gene Roddenberry's vision of Star Trek, and there's our critics. There have been critics of us, believe it or not. I know it's hard to believe.
I've got critics. I thought everybody loved us.
I thought so too. Say that Gene Roddenberry didn't have a vision, or the people behind Star Trek didn't have a vision. Well, the vision grew past what these people were personally, and Star Trek was generally a hopeful vision of the future. Now, Deep Space Nine subverted that, as what Enterprise did a little bit too. And there was dark stories. It doesn't mean everybody was good. People take such a simplistic view of things. But what Picard is doing is undoing what Star Trek did before, because these new repurposers, as I like to call it, think they know better, and they don't. They're generally basic soap opera TV writers taking on science fiction because genre is the thing right now. And quite frankly, the talent pool has been so thin lately. That's what Doctor Who and Star Trek are suffering from, the same exact thing. We have showrunners who aren't very good, And what they do is they hire below their talent level, which is not very good. And we're getting bad stories. I don't want to ruin the second, because Drinker hasn't seen the second, not that I could ruin it for you, the second episode of Picard. But the thing that took me out of it the most was Sir Patrick Stewart was just acting like Sir Patrick Stewart, and Dodge as a character was written just horribly. Everything was forced, and it did feel like there was two scripts like Frankenstein together. And it is just structurally bad.
I actually had a chat with Midnight's Edge. I was on a live stream with them about this, just literally 10 minutes after I'd finished watching the first episode. And one of the things they touched on was that they'd cut down the number of episodes in the first season. And I guess what they had to do then was amalgamate some episodes together or some scripts together, and this is what you get, this weird rushed everything has to happen in like the first 20 minutes kind of approach to it, storytelling. And so you've got someone like Daj who probably should have got a couple of episodes before they killed her off to let you kind of get a feel for the character and develop her history a little bit more, and then it would feel more significant when she got killed off. But as it was like just someone that kind of pops in and out, and she has some exposition with Jean-Luc, and then she's gone, and that's it. It felt so unearned. I didn't care that she died because I didn't know her. Also, I just happened to notice Mahler's in the chat. Hello, sir. If you'd like to join us, by the way, feel free to make yourself known, and I'll send you the link, because it's always good to have the long man on board.
Indeed.
Sorry, on you go.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, and when we were touching on when Star Trek has been dark in the past, the two best examples are definitely Deep Space Nine, which, and, we know that Gene Roddenberry wasn't supportive of the idea initially, which is unfortunately why the show premiered after he'd passed away. But even with Deep Space Nine, and even with the third season of Enterprise, which in what we call real Star Trek is the darkest Star Trek ever got, it wasn't necessarily the Federation. They weren't portrayed as this all-encompassing evil. DS9 did introduce the concept of Section 31, which I disagreed with back then, and I disagree with now, because that's not what Starfleet was supposed to represent. But here, and yeah, we won't go into the second episode because Drinker hasn't suffered through that yet. So I pray for you, sir, when you do watch that episode.
Oh, don't worry too much about spoiling it for me. I'm not that invested in it.
Yeah, but and there are clips of Gene Roddenberry out there. He wanted to create a hopeful future. His idea was that the human beings as a race had evolved, whereas things that we have now, sexism, racism, things like that, were no longer a thing. And yet here we are, which I think in the timeline, it's roughly about 20 years from the last time we were within the Star Trek universe, which its endpoint would be, unfortunately, Nemesis. But they're trying to tell us that within these past 20 years, Starfleet, humanity, and the Federation have forgotten all about what they stood for. Suddenly, we're racist. Even though the Federation is some 150 planets, all diverse, the Federation in no iteration would have just let a species, enemy or not, just die. So it doesn't correlate. This isn't the Star Trek that we grew up with, and I'm glad that this is part of the Kurtzman verse. So I guess the 25% different here means that what Starfleet stands for is done. So this was just like Doctor Who, just like everything else, just like Star Wars. This was a direct insult to everything that came before. And, I love Patrick Stewart. I still, and yeah, Gary, you're right when you talk about that in the second episode, where he didn't seem as quite as into it as he did in the first one. But he, we can all admit he's probably one of the finest actors of the past century. But and here's a funny thing, and this has been brought up before, just in the stupidity in the way this is written. I think, what is the character Picard? He's supposed to be in his 90s, I think, at this
97.
Point. Yeah, 97. So
seriously,
how did he survive that explosion?
Yeah,
how did a 97-year-old get blown up, thrown across the lot, and he's just got a headache?
This is why
little things like that.
Yeah, this is what I touched on in my review. Like, he obviously gets thrown across the rooftop by this explosion. Never mind the shrapnel and everything that would have been flying his way. And he is like 90 years old. But then he wakes up in his vineyard in France. Like, shouldn't he be in a hospital or something? Like, don't you need like attention? And yeah, the idea that it almost plays on this notion that he imagined the whole thing, because it's like, oh, we didn't catch any of it on security cameras, and it's like, well, you were surrounded by like hundreds of people. It's Starfleet headquarters. Like, aren't there people with eyes who looked up and saw a big explosion on the roof? Like, it's just little things like that that's just like throwaway lines where it's like, we've just established these criteria, don't think too much about it, just move on to the next bit. And that's so much like Kurtzman and the J.J. Abrams school of storytelling. And it's everything that Star Trek didn't used to be. It used to be thoughtful. It used to be considered, and it's lost that. And yeah, this, as you mentioned there, like this idea that the Federation has kind of regressed into some kind of weird isolationist state when it's composed of like hundreds of planets and dozens of different species. How can that be xenophobic and isolationist? That's just taking present day politics and trying to cram it into a universe that completely doesn't support it. And yeah, this was the whole point of Star Trek, that it was meant to be aspirational. It was meant to be uplifting. It was meant to say, you know, as a species, we've moved beyond all these petty concerns that kind of keep us tied to one planet at the moment. And now we've set our sights on a bigger goal of exploring the universe and seeking out new life and new civilizations. You know, that's a good thing. That's something that inspires each and every one of us, because it's universal. And now it's like, yeah, no, we're just back to printing.
Yeah, it is. And the reason, I don't know, the reason, again, I'm not an expert in anything. I don't claim to be, but the reason Star Trek was out in space so much, I think narratively, it was difficult to probably show the 24th century society on Earth and its everyday things, you know, with why would there be police? Would there be police? And yeah, since you don't care, I'll spoil a little bit from the second episode. It's a complete police state where you can track somebody all the time. You can beam into somebody's apartment without their permission. You have forensic quantum gimmickry that can take the molecules in a room and replay a scene, basically.
You can't
I laughed out loud
serious.
when I saw that. Yeah, no, that happens.
And these are things that would be very difficult to write. So maybe you just stay away from them so you can keep that ideal. And you know, in the first episode, when they get to fake Boston, it's playing like 60s R&B in the background, like two kids. I mean, okay, maybe that's equivalent to two kids listening to Bach on a date, or on a Mozart or something, possibly okay, but weird. Why don't they? You know, and they also did that in the short Trek. They played a modern song in the background.
Yeah, it's the modern. It's everything. It's like the modern language. Like at one point she says, "Dude," you know, and like the people have TVs now again. Like,
and
where they
TV
can
is
watch.
not supposed to exist.
Yeah, exactly. Like, again, we're supposed to move beyond that, and this is what TNG was smart enough to avoid, was any kind of pop culture in the 24th century. They were like, you know, if you ever heard someone listening to music, it would be classical music, something that was really generic, because they knew if they tried to represent pop culture in the far future, it would just come across as cheesy and stupid and derivative. And that's what they've done in this, and it just does not work at all.
Well, the thing that for me, it was I'm known to drop the occasional F-bomb, possibly, maybe once or twice in my videos. But prior to Star Trek Discovery, STD, that had the I don't want to get Drinker in trouble, so the word that begins with F, it hadn't been dropped until STD. It was dropped twice in this episode. Mm-hmm. And I'm obviously not offended by the use of language, but that's not how people talk in this society. And I don't know, Gary, did you find that as ridiculous as I did? Because there were two of them.
The most ridiculous one was the Irish Romulan who said effing cheeky.
What?
Yes.
And then an admiral swore at Picard.
Yes, and that was and even if they're not portraying the Federation as evil, it's evil bureaucratic, kind of like, yeah, and that's really, I mean, they've done that before. Admirals have always been, to me, the kind of evil ones, or they were always against the captain, or that was kind of a thing in Star Trek. But the way this thing is shot, it's shot in, everything looks modern. Nothing looks like a building from the future. It's just lit a little differently. And again, the in the first episode, the newswoman looks like she's from today. I go look at anybody from the mainstream media or the news from 20 years ago. They look completely different. Yep. But this one looked exactly like somebody from today.
She was from Fox News. Yep. We have Fox News in the 24th century.
Yeah. And the fact that...
No, I was going to say, the way she talks about the Romulans as well, when Picard's like saying, we had this humanitarian mission to try and save the population of this planet. And the immediately the thing she comes in with is like, oh, you mean our oldest enemies? I was like, why would a Federation person talk like that? That's not the mindset they would have had about something like that.
Absolutely. No, they would have respect, and they would try to be above that, because that's what we thought Star Trek was, but it's not, under Alex Kurtzman and company. And it just became abundantly clear that they don't want this to be Star Trek. Now, we've been saying this with Star Trek Discovery for a couple of years, but we thought they would be different about Picard, and that, a bias aside, some of the language they were trying to use, at least early on with Picard, is they were showing reverence for the character. But then it was Sir Patrick Stewart himself who came out with a Variety article about a week and a half ago, where he basically spills what's behind all the motivations behind the storytelling in this show, which was one of the dumbest things I think I've ever read. I don't know why you would want to come out and immediately alienate possibly half of your fandom, unless you just don't care. You're so convinced you're right, and you just think that other side, they're all the devil, and we don't need subscribers on CBS All Access during the streaming wars. Nah, we just want the fans we want. It doesn't work like that. And it was and I know how Sir Patrick Stewart has been. I know where his politics are, and it's never bothered me. That who cares? But even explaining your motivations prior to the story coming out, because if you don't, then people don't hear that, and then they go into a story more open-minded. But they went out and did it. It's almost like they were trying to get ahead of it because this thing tested poorly, which is what I've heard. I don't know that for a fact. That's why I haven't talked about very much. But the episodes are playing out just exactly how I heard they would. So
it kind of poisons the well a little bit when you do that, because, like you say, if they hadn't said anything about the politics of this, then I probably would have gone into it with a more open mind. But once you say stuff like that, it's like, yes, we're going to tackle Trump and Brexit and all the rest of it. That's all you can see, and that's all you can hear when you watch it, because you can see the intent behind it. And with Patrick Stewart, I don't know if you would attribute this to him just being a bit out of touch with everything. I don't imagine he's that savvy with like the kind of culture and the mood amongst the fan base. So he might have just heard like, oh yes, people on the Twitter are very much against Brexit, so we should cover that. Yes, I'll just say that. And it may not be that's. I guess what I'm trying to say is, it may not be as extreme as he's making it out to be. He may just be trying to ride a wave that doesn't really exist.
Yeah, no, he's always been left wing. So there's that past. And this is something that we see over and over again with every franchise, every movie that has imploded over the past 2 years. You'll have somebody in the show, an actor, a director, whatever, that deliberately antagonizes half the fan base by saying something stupid, and it's always attacking the other side. And one thing that I've always preached is, people like us, we can have political opinions because we don't represent franchises. But entertainment needs to be apolitical, especially now where every country is divided down the center. If you take one side, and unfortunately it's always that one side that they're taking, then you do lose half your audience. And one would think after 3 or 4 years of this that somebody would have clued into it. Does CBS All Access, are they just not interested in making money, or have they already written off the streaming service? And it's kind of telling. Yeah, we were all saying just 4 or 5 weeks ago, things look better now at the end of 2020. Maybe this trend is coming to an end. And it isn't, because we see Star Trek Picard, we see Doctor Who doubling down. Apparently, Birds of Prey is not doing very well with ticket sales. So I think that's the next thing that we're going to see is flop. But it boggles the mind. It's the same cycle over and over again.
Yeah, I'm obviously I haven't seen episode 2 of Picard, so I don't have that kind of view that you guys do. But episode 1 at least got me invested enough to care or to give it a chance for a few more episodes. I don't know where it goes from here. Obviously, maybe that's it's kind of a flop from this point, but at least seeing Patrick Stewart back, and at least the sort of general premise that they've established, it's like, okay, well, it's got potential to go somewhere. Whereas, Star Trek Discovery, like after 2 episodes, I was just like, no, I'm out. Like, this is absolute garbage. I don't know if some of it comes down to just the quality of the actors that are involved, potentially.
That has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
That it really does. I mean, what Star Trek Picard is better than Star Trek Discovery, like I said before. The first episode was better than the second episode. And when you see it, I mean, it's more boring than anything. It's like CSI Picard. It's very procedural.
Right.
And I think, I mean, I don't pretend to speak for the entirety of fandom, but I would think normies who want to dip in on this, who watch Star Trek The Next Generation before, want to see the crew. And this is clearly, it's called Picard, and they mention it in the second episode. They briefly mention the crew, some of them, and how they're not going to be in this show. And we do know, I know this, that they were originally not going to be in the show, and they were hastily brought in, and some things were reshot and redone so they could bring some people in.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Got to get those member berries in.
And they're trying, and there's like concepts in it that, I mean, some Trekkies will get mad about that I wouldn't. I mean, like, sure, I'll see something about the Borg again. I don't care. Or the Romulans, which I always wanted more of the Romulans in Star Trek than what we got. But not like this, not with, again, modern British Romulans, which is hilarious. I can't wait for you to see the second episode, Drink. Actually, I'd like to hear your take on it. But yeah,
I'll be covering that. Don't worry.
You can see where this is going. I mean, and there's a scene in the second episode that should be, I mean, quite frankly, one of the most important scenes in Star Trek that they just blow past, and it's just done. That's it. And we move past it. And it's a scene with Picard. And if you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. And it was like, and that really breaks down what's wrong with this thing is they're just trying to get to point A to point B. They don't care about, and for a lot of people who saw the Fall of Skywalker, one of the first part of my review was, now you know what it's like to watch an episode of Star Trek Discovery. It was structured the same way, which is, it's not meant to be thought about. It's just meant to be watched. And that's not at least how I like Star Trek. I like to think about Star Trek.
Yeah,
I think that was always the point of it. Like, it was meant to be, it's got this, this space adventure where you can go to all these different cultures and experience all these different things, but it was presented in a more sober, thoughtful way. And I guess this was always the thing that differentiated something like TNG from Picard, in that it allowed you to form your own opinions. It presented you with different arguments and different perspectives. And then it says, this is kind of a mirror to what we experience in human society, but we're not here to lecture you about what you need to think about this. It's like, just consider the different alternatives here, And, it provides you with a different perspective, I suppose, but that you might not get normally. But now it feels like, no, we know exactly what the correct course of action is, and we're going to tell you.
Yeah,
And that's modern entertainment right there.
Yeah, and that's how Gene Roddenberry originally structured the show. His involvement was mainly limited to the first 2 seasons of the original series, and then he was more or less a figurehead after that, and you can kind of tell that in the results of season 3. But yeah, that was one of the reasons being for Star Trek. And it goes all the way through to Enterprise. They examine modern day issues, but you're never beaten over the head with one side. And I think you're right, Gary. It's you said in your video, this is the best Star Trek that we've had since 2005, and sadly, that is true. This is this is better than the Kurtzman verse movies, which I've never been a fan of. This is better than anything that we've gotten from STD, and it was one of the few times that I've actually been excited, as much as we all knew what we were getting into. It was exciting to see Picard again, Data, even though it ended up being a dream sequence. And I don't know what the hell was wrong with 10 Forward. It looks, I guess that was the 25% different. It looked like a CGI mess.
It's like, I mentioned this. It was like, why couldn't you have had a scene on the bridge, like something that's actually distinctive? But then I realized, like, well, that's too distinctive, and they would have had to
25%.
And it would have been too recognizable. But like 10 Forward is a much more generic area where you can just have a bunch of chairs and windows. That'll do,
Yep. And you can see the budget restraints on this one, and this is common knowledge that Star Trek Discovery cost a ton of money, and unfortunately they burned through all the money with that show, so now they're having to take the hit on this one. It's still expensive. I think that I've heard crazy numbers about this show, and it's still like the last episode was 42 minutes long. The first one is 46.
Yep.
And this is, I don't know who it's in the interest for, because commercial television is here in the States and it's not on commercial television. I know in Canada and in the UK and some parts of Europe, you have to keep stuff under 55 minutes or something like that. But still, especially this last episode needed 10 more minutes of something, because it ended so abruptly. But the thing is, it's going to go in this really nihilistic place. And maybe at the very end, it's going to lift us up, and, Picard was right all along. But I heard another interview that where basically this is going to be No Country for Old Men. I'm like, oh God, well, how many things does this show have to be? Battlestar Galactica, Firefly, Serenity. It's not Star Trek, but it's like 19 other shows.
I'm telling you, man, I honestly get Undiscovered Country vibes from it, where it's like, a big disaster that's forced a former enemy to the negotiating table, and there's almost like this big conspiracy around stoking up kind of conflict between the Romulans and the Federation to turn them into like enemies again. That's what it feels like, and it's like if they go down that road, it's like, fuck, you've done it already, and you've done it way better in the past.
Well, yeah, they did it way better, and it wasn't all of Starfleet or all of the Federation turning against the Klingons either. Where here, it's the whole Federation is that little conspiracy group. And I think comparing the Undiscovered Country to Picard is actually, I think that's the best way of looking what is wrong with Kurtzman Trek versus what is wrong with real Star Trek. And you could see the Federation in Undiscovered Country, they weren't going to turn their back on the Klingons. But just this notion that Starfleet, the Federation, are just going to turn their backs on a species that is dying, that was against everything that they stood for. And in the second episode, the Admiral says, again, drinker spoilers, but you'll see it, but it goes to the point. The angry Trump-esque Admiral says, actually, yeah, it is. Starfleet does have a right to decide who lives and dies. So that line right there tells you everything you need to know about Kurtzman Trek. This is not Star Trek. There's a philosophy behind Star Trek. And also the way it was done is Star Trek is different from, say, Star Wars or Doctor Who. Doctor Who and Star Wars, they're science fantasy. But Star Trek has always been science fiction. Even the science, they would always have scientists working on the show going back to the original series. And they try and keep it as grounded in scientific knowledge of the time, so they could at least try and be accurate. Like they can explain how the warp drive works, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas Star Trek Picard, it's for me, it's veering towards science fantasy and not even good science fantasy. So, and yeah, that's where I'm coming from with this. And I still haven't made a video because I was going to give it a few episodes. But then as soon as I saw that scene with the Admiral, when I finally got around to watching it last night, yeah, it's my video is coming out, and it's my view is this has betrayed everything Gene Roddenberry, Star Trek, and really everybody who was behind Star Trek during real Star Trek. Rick Berman, Ronald D. Moore, everyone. And it's telling as well, because I know, Gary, you noticed the, God, what is it, 21, 25 executive producers that are on this show.
Yeah.
It's telling that not a single one of them has ever worked in real Star Trek. Why? Because they're all working over on the Orville. So no, it's like they actively decided we're not going to get anybody who actually knows what they're doing, except Patrick Stewart, who is an executive producer, but we know these were mostly his ideas. But yeah, that's my argument. This is not Star Trek. They don't have anybody that knows anything about Star Trek working on either of these series, other than, say, the occasional, like Jonathan Frakes. I don't know why, but comes in to direct the occasional episode. But no, this isn't Star Trek.
Yeah. One person in the chat was mentioning here they don't understand the 25% that we keep referring to. It basically refers to the licensing situation between CBS and Paramount, so that any new Star Trek TV shows or movies that are produced, in order to be viable, in order to not violate the terms of their agreement, they have to be 25% different, either visually or tonally or thematically or whatever it is, from the original Star Trek, like the classic series or TNG or anything like that. That's why you get something like Star Trek Discovery. The ships and the uniforms and everything all look a little bit different, and everything's just a bit weird. That's the reason. It's got to be 25% different. And that's why apparently nobody's buying any of the merchandise, because it looks like shit.
Yeah. And Midnight's Edge they've actually done a number of excellent videos, fairly lengthy videos too, just breaking down exactly how screwed up this license situation is.
It's insane. Like, Andre was trying to like explain it to me on a stream, and I was just sitting there like, nope, it doesn't make sense. It's insanely complex, but yeah, it's something that you think they could resolve now, because I think the two companies have merged back together.
Yeah,
again,
they're one company again, but the problem is there's the hangover, because the license, which was instituted back in, I think it was actually 2006, which was a year after the two entities, so CBS and Paramount, had broken apart. So, and nobody knows for sure, but from what we can tell, it looks like that license is still in effect. So Paramount and CBS are once again back under the same umbrella. But because of what they did with the Kelvin movies, it's still just a complete... Gary, what word would you use to describe the right situation as it exists right now?
I've got a couple for you.
I'm avoiding swearing.
No, I just go for it. Fuck it. It's clusterfuck. Let's just call it what it is.
Clusterfuck.
Yeah, okay. That's the word I was gonna say. So yeah, we'll swear now. Clusterfuck. See, we're allowed to swear because we're not in the 24th century. Colorful metaphors. Star Trek 4.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. Someone has said in the
chat.
chat.
That undoes that right there.
And I realize there's people who have arguments against that, and I'm willing to listen to it. But what we see play out on the screen, because if I just heard the 25% argument and watched Star Trek and saw a lot of similarities, I wouldn't believe it. But look at the Klingons. There's a lot of cursory evidence out there that makes me believe it. The Star Trek Discovery era ships being in the shipyards, the costume changes. Again, the Klingons. There is a minor change to the Romulans, the Star Trek Experience, which was shut down, which was going to reopen, but they decided against it because of the J.J. Abrams contract. Now, there's a lot behind that, and we will never know it all. But I've seen these licensing agreements screw up things in comic books all the time, so I can completely see it existing. Or it could be they just want to make everything their brand. It still sucks, no matter what the reason is. It sucks, and it doesn't feel like Star Trek. And the fact that we're still seeing the lens flares in the last episode. Oh, Jesus Christ. People were sending me screenshots, and they're like blowing out the people on the screen.
It's just ridiculous. There's someone's put in the chat here, fat data, lol. Yeah, there's been a lot of that, actually.
They couldn't even get his hair right.
Yeah, it looked weird, didn't it? It was just like this weird curve that goes right across his forehead. It's like, I don't know. I've seen a lot of hair in my life, I guess, but like I've never seen a hairline like that. That's bizarre.
25% different data.
Exactly, yeah. But like, it's worth pointing out, like Brent Spiner, the reason his character got killed off in Nemesis is that he didn't want to play Data anymore, because he was like, yeah, I'm getting old now, and I can't play this android that never ages anymore. And that was like, what, 20 years ago or something?
Yep, and yeah, he's doing it again.
Yeah, and it's like, fuck, man, like the de-aging could have like put in a bit more effort, like slim his face down a little bit or something.
And I thought they were going towards changing that in, what was it, First Contact, when he got the skin from the Borg Queen. They could have mixed something in that could have aged him, but well, maybe he's regretting that decision. I don't know how many roles he's been in since then, and he's doing some band or something that he forces everybody to listen to at Star Trek conventions.
Well, you know, he had what was it, Independence Day regurgitation.
Yeah.
And,
oh God.
You know, like he tore the shit out of the scenery in that one. Holy shit! Like, whenever Brent Spiner gets to actually just play a normal character, like he always goes way over the top because he's had to like suppress his emotions as Data for so many years.
Yeah,
it's like he's unleashed. It's great to watch.
It is. Another thing going for the 25%, whether it's true or not, is the similarities in story. If you go back to the JJ Trek, aside from the 2009 movie, there's always some Starfleet conspiracy with Section 31 involved, and of course that happened in Star Trek Discovery season 1 and 2, and in Star Trek Discovery season 2 there was an evil AI, basically, although it wasn't an AI. If you haven't seen it, it's an AI that knew it wanted to be an AI, but it needed to get an object to become an AI. It needed to get some data for an additional download. So how does an AI know it wants to be an AI without being an AI? That's something I had a little trouble with wrapping my head around. Because if you have a desire, then you're obviously you're intelligent.
You've got consciousness. Yes. Yeah, you've got consciousness already. Yeah, it's like I want to be self-aware. It's like, well, if you want something, then you already are self-aware. Yeah. I like this Data now with 25% more body fat.
well, here's the funny thing when you talk about just not doing your research, basic research. So there's never been another android like Data. So are we just going to remove lore from Star Trek canon? Or are they even aware that lore was even a thing?
Well, they've forgotten about Lal as well, apparently.
Yeah, Lal. Right. Yeah, Data's actual daughter. Although Lore is the better example because he was evil Data. With Lal, there were some stability problems, but still, it's not Data. You've got two other very clear examples of androids, and Lal, you could argue, was above Data because she had emotion. And it's things like this that take you out of it. And that goes towards the argument that this is not real Star Trek. 25% different. Well, yes, 25% different. You can change whatever you want. You can write out characters. And I think for me, the funniest example of the 25% difference was the bridge of the Enterprise on Star Trek Discovery. What was with the corridor behind the bridge? Just little things like that.
Yeah, it's all these things. It's probably things that they think are subtle in order to get around this stuff. That's people notice, obviously. But yeah, Star Trek Discovery is just something that like I've never had any interest in. Like seeing the reviews, seeing the main character that they've got, it just seems like an absolute nightmare, and just nothing to do with Star Trek as I understand it. So. Nah, it's not something I want to watch, like, ever.
Oh yeah,
No.
and you've got the plagiarism drive. Okay, so why did we never hear about this? Well, yeah, actually, no. It was kind of funny the way they tried to fix canon. Okay, so nobody will ever speak of these events again. So everybody that's on Star Trek Discovery, their families had to pretend they don't exist, and that's just the level of laziness because they were caught. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, this plagiarism drive, this doesn't actually fit into Star Trek canon after all. Okay, it's a secret, and you're executed if you talk about it.
Yeah, because people are so good at keeping secrets. And Spock and Kirk didn't develop such a relationship where the Spock wouldn't bring it up at some point, on or off screen. It was, I mean, the very definition of shoehorning something in, it's the motivations. You talked about this in your Doctor Who video, Bowlestrek. We can see through the motivations now. And the motivation of Michael Burnham was to create, because they felt like it was missing an important female character in the past in Star Trek. That's why they didn't just move forward, which they probably should have done, and created a whole new alien race and took us to new adventures. No, we're going to dip around in the past because we want to change it. So we could change the past to make it okay with today. And that's totally what was behind Michael Burnham, especially when they promised at first that there would be no Spock or anything in Star Trek Discovery. And of course they brought Spock back in the second season, and she was instrumental in his life, so much so to where they stopped the action while there was thousands of fighters fighting around them, standing on a platform in space, and had this big long conversation about how much they loved each other. And she told him to go reach out for somebody like Kirk.
Oh God, I'm gonna throw up right now if I have to hear that.
Or let's forget about Cybok. Where did Cybok fit into all this? And you ask Kurtzman who? That proves this point right there.
Yeah, this is what's so fucking insidious about it and so disrespectful. Is this idea of not only are we going to fuck up the present and write a completely different future that no one wants, but we are also going to reach back into the past and rewrite that. And basically say all of these characters that you found so interesting and so well developed back in the day, guess what? We can get them as well, because we're going to write a new story that says, like, yeah, they only became the people that they did because of some other character that we created that was there to help them along the way and give them all these, bits of guidance and instruction and motivation and stuff. It's so desperate. It's so mean-spirited. Like you can't even respect what's come before. You have to even fuck with that as well.
Yeah.
Like it's such a shitty thing to do when it comes to writing. And it's almost like they're trying to give more legitimacy to what they're doing now by like saying, oh, well, everything that led up to this was also motivated by the crap that we're creating these days. Like it pisses me off. Like it's bad enough when they bastardize shows nowadays and moving forward, but actually to rewrite the past as well. Fuck that.
No, it's mean-spirited. And it's also, and I mean, I don't totally know what the motivations are, but Star Trek Discovery, one of the biggest problems I have with it could be solved simply by going, it's another reality. This is a prequel to the JJ Trek. Okay. Then, I mean, I would honestly look at it completely different. I mean, I wouldn't like it. It's not a good show, but it's not crapping all over the past. Fine. It can, and that's probably what they should have done. If you want to reboot Star Trek or Doctor Who, start it over again. And that way we can have our thing and we can try this. And if we don't like it, we still have our thing. And so does everybody else. But what Drake just said right there is they have to put their name on it, their signature, because they're so, I mean, Alex Kurtzman is a repurposer. That's what they do. And it's there. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, and a lot of these reasons are political. And again, we see through their motivations, and they continue to do it. But the thing is, it does hurt the original stuff. A lot of people go, you don't have to count it. But honestly, I was talking to Doomcock about this. I was watching Empire for the first time in the gym the other day. Hadn't seen it for a long time. And I'm looking at it, and I see Darth Vader. I'm like, oh, yeah. his legacy wasn't so much. And I see Luke, there's a guy who's going to quit on his family.
Oh yeah, it's exactly the same with Return of the Jedi. When Vader sacrifices himself, and they have this brilliant resolution where the Emperor's been defeated, the Empire's been overthrown, and Luke lays his father to rest, and you're like, God, what a perfect ending. But then in the back of your mind, there's always this thing of like, Luke's going to end up as a cranky old man drinking blue titty milk from an alien on an island somewhere. You can see it. It's imprinted on your brain forever, and that is the legacy of new Star Wars. It not only does it fuck up like the future, but it taints the past as well. It's that bad.
Sorry, go on, Bowlestrek.
Oh no, I would just say, I've watched the first 6 movies since watching The Rise of Skywalker, and from the beginning, this is no longer the Skywalker saga. They've turned this into the Palpatine saga. Yep. So evil triumphs in the end, and the Skywalkers are just side characters because they're all dead by the end. But you've got Palpatine, so all hail the Emperor.
Yeah,
I still maintain that Palpatine downloaded into Rey's body and that she's actually him now.
I completely agree with that.
Because that's what he wanted her to do. It's like, kill me and I'll get into your body. And then she kills him, and then nothing's ever said about it. She's evil now. Calling it.
No, I totally agree with that. And your big political allegory, because I'm doing a video right now, and George Lucas supposedly framed Palpatine around his caricature of Nixon. So Nixon victorious. Lucas, I'm sure he's very happy about that. But it also, like, think of All Good Things, Bowlestrek. How differently are you going to look at that episode now that you know that Picard is in a very short amount of time going to quit the Federation and protest for 20 years and go slunk away to his winery and basically feel sorry for himself for a couple decades?
They've Jake Skywalkered him. It's the same thing.
So inspiring.
And I've watched a few Next Generation episodes since I've watched the first episode of Picard, and as much as I love, like, I've been watching it for over 33 years now. I look at that show in a completely different context now, because you know what's coming. You know what apparently the Federation is going to turn into. And I've never liked Nemesis just because I thought everybody was completely out of character in that film. But now watch Nemesis, I'm like, yep, everything goes to shit right after this.
I think, none of the TNG movies were particularly special. Probably the high point was First Contact. Like, Generations was such a wasted opportunity with Kirk and Picard. Insurrection was just a complete nothing burger. Like, it made me feel absolutely nothing. And Nemesis tried to be like this big dumb action movie that's you have a bunch of actors who are just not suited for action at all. And so it ended on kind of a bum note. But then if you take All Good Things as being like your conclusion for the TNG story and Picard, what a way to bow out. Like, imagine if that had been an actual movie with the budget of a movie. It would have been incredible.
Yeah, well, look at that final scene at the poker table. It ended on a message of hope, and it's, I don't know. It's been less than 24 hours since I watched the other episode. Like I said, this is the one that made it clear what has happened apparently in the past 20 years, and other things like, how is Mars still on fire 16 years later? Would they not have improved fire suppression techniques in the 24th century?
What can you even say to that? You'd think it would have exhausted whatever fuel was there, but it's just to make another statement, I suppose. This was meant to be their 9/11, wasn't it? This attack on Mars, like the destruction of the shipyards, all the civilian casualties and stuff. It was meant to be their 9/11, and well, it took 15 years for the new towers to be constructed where the World Trade Center stood. Is that some kind of reference they're trying to make? Everything's so fucking clumsy. Everything's so obvious. Like, I sometimes think, am I just looking too surface level with it? But then I think, no, it probably is that obvious. That's what they're going for.
Yeah, 9/11 and Katrina.
And go ahead, Gary.
Oh, mixed together. That's all. That's what they were going for, is 9/11 and Katrina.
There's
And
an interesting comment here, by the way. Obviously, needless to say, chat, we will get through all the super chats. We'll address them. I'm just letting them build up a little bit, and then we'll address them later. But they were saying Voyager here looks like a masterpiece now in comparison to what we have nowadays. I don't disagree with that.
Nope.
To be honest, like I think Voyager is quite an underrated show. Like I loved the premise of it. Yeah, it had a lot of weak episodes, but like fundamentally, I think it told a good story, and some of them were pretty damn decent. Like the Year of Hell, I loved that kind of 2-episode arc.
The Year of Hell should have been an entire season. Well, the issue that I always had with Voyager is it had great episodes, but I think it shows how, especially Brandon Braga and Rick Berman at the time, you see a lot of burnout, especially in the later seasons where they had to meet 26 episodes per year. So every season you'd have some brilliant episodes. But I think what really brought it down was just the filler episodes where they didn't know where to go. And that followed it into the first 2 seasons of Enterprise. But then they completely changed the format of the show in season 3, went with the season-long arc, and then serialized it with season 4, where you have multi-part stories. But one thing that I wanted to bring up as well that doesn't fit in with Star Trek canon. So androids are outlawed. And obviously they've seen The Measure of a Man because Maddox is in there, but androids are supposed to have rights. So this is another reference to current year. Apparently we are removing rights from people because of their demographic representation. But even an episode and a character that you reference completely contradicts everything you're doing. Is they had rights, and now suddenly, no, you don't have rights. You're not a person anymore, and D4 gets dismantled.
Yeah, like how can they just reverse that? And again, it's like it's applying the actions of like one small group to like an entire population, if you will. And again, I guess that's meant to be an allegory of like, say, the 9/11 attacks. That was perpetrated by like terrorists of a certain religious persuasion, and then drawing the comparisons with like, oh well, you can't tar everyone with the same brush, and it's like, well, yeah, you shouldn't, exactly. So why would the Federation do that? Like they're 3 centuries beyond where we're at. They should be more advanced and they should be more sensible than that.
Yeah, and who did this? How did they get back past all their security to take which were basically their worker drones, you find out, and they made it so easy. I mean, there's a plot element that the thing you're going to find out if you are not familiar with Star Trek Discovery, and if you're not, consider yourself lucky, is these questions we're asking largely won't get answered. That's the biggest problem. Like with Palpatine, how did he come back? It doesn't matter. And you're going to see a lot of that with this, like who was, you'll generally find who was behind the attack. It'll probably be Section 31 or the Romulans, or Section 31 and the Romulans working together. And that'll be it. They won't tell you how, or they'll say it was a virus, because like they injected a malware virus in it or some, modern bullshit. And it's oh my God. Especially, I don't, well, screw it. If you guys haven't seen it, I'm sorry, but Picard he's dying. We're going to be watching him die for 2 or 3 seasons. Like, this is it. He just got a prognosis, and they tell him so willy-nilly. They go, yeah, you're dying. And he's all, okay. And then,
whatever. It could be one of a couple syndromes, and some are worse. So hopefully you're lucky and you get killed on your mission. I'm like, yeah, that's not foreshadowing anything.
Yep. So
that's to give Patrick Stewart an out if he gets bored with this shit. It's like, nah, well, the disease is taking hold. That's it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it'll only go 3 seasons anyway. And if it does, they're going to have to film them back to back.
But it has that vibe though, doesn't it? It's like, an old man coming out of retirement for one last adventure, and then might as well just die after that because like you've got nothing left to do. So
would
like
be fine if he's with his friends and his crew and he's doing something heroic, and you could make up a new villain. Nobody would have cared. It didn't have to be the Romulans or the Borg. This is getting getting the crew back together is what every fan wants. And of course, there's that term out there. Well, we don't want to give them fan service. We don't want to give the fans what they want. I mean,
yeah, that's the same logic that never had Han, Leia, and Luke on screen at the same time. It's like, you know what? Every so often you can just do something nice for the fans. Like they would appreciate it forever if you could just do that thing for them, and it's not that hard. But it's like, no, we have to ration this shit out and drip feed all these characters to you. It's like, yeah,
well,
it's bullshit.
Well, there's a scene in the episode where his Irish Romulan friend says, "Yeah, so why not, get, because he's looking to put a crew together, and it's why don't you contact Riker, LaForge, Worf? They'd go for it in a second." And he's like, "No, I'm not doing it because they would go in a second." I'm like, okay, so you have all these actors, or at least we know we have some of them that are appearing in it, so they very easily could have put some of them back together, but no, we get the hipster crew and a Romulan that looks like imposter Spock, who was busy boinking our other character this episode. Yeah, that's in there too.
I'm just going to say as well, because the chat's going nuts for this, Brexit has apparently taken effect. It took effect at 11 p.m. this evening. So, wow, I feel so different.
Do you feel free? Do you feel different?
Oh, it's crazy. I better hold on a second. I'm going to open the window here because apparently I've been informed by Twitter that the sky is going to fall in.
Well, your apocalypse is starting.
Yeah, like all of the medicines that power our NHS and everything are going to be withheld. Cats and dogs will be living together, just complete anarchy. No, I can just see
You're doomed. I
just see a dark garden outside. It looks all right. Yeah, I think
it looks fine.
I think life will go on, I think.
for a good laugh, just go visit Twitter right now.
Yeah, oh man. After this, there's going to be serious amounts of sodium chloride flowing on Twitter. But yeah, well, for everyone who supports it, happy Brexit Day to you guys.
Happy Brexit Day to the Brexit supporters. I don't know enough about it. All I know is you want to have your politicians as accountable as possible. But that's all. That's just me.
Yeah, no, I think so. And well, we'll see what comes of it. I've kept an open mind about the whole thing, so I'm just interested to know what the new setup's going to be and whether we can get something good out of this. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope so. Maybe we'll get. My personal motivations are as it brings down the BBC and the Doctor Who goes to a private company that knows what to do with it.
Well,
that would be a dream come true.
On that sweet little linking, look, why don't we move on to that? Talk a little bit about Doctor Who, because I know you guys have been watching quite a bit of it. How are you feeling about the new season and the latest episode and the revelations about there being a new Doctor?
It's brilliant.
Genius work on Chris Chibnall's part.
Stunning and brave. I feel so empowered by watching this episode. Women can vote in Saudi Arabia now. Women can vote in America now because of Doctor Who.
Thank you guys. I was literally shaking
oh my God.
when I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that accent, so I'll just continue to be grumpy. Take that, William Hartnell, you evil patriarchal 1960s bastard.
It was a funny one. The strange thing was when I was watching that episode, up until that point, I was like, wow, this is actually, it looks better than the last one I saw, which was Orphan 55. I was like, wow, it's quite well shot. They're in beautiful locations, like the cathedral and everything. It's well kind of put together. Jodie Whittaker kind of tries to act a little bit. I think she tries to emote a little when she's talking about Gallifrey and stuff. I was like, oh, wow, she's getting a little bit more serious now. But then they bring that in and I'm just like, oh, fuck yeah, that ticks every single box on the list. Yep, I can see what you're doing.
It did. And I think Jodie is best when she's mopey. That's the only time where it feels like a bit of a different Doctor.
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind of bought into that thing where she was she's talking about the Master, she's talking about Gallifrey and stuff, and she's very restrained. I'm like, oh wow, when you're in the right situation, you can kind of act. Who would have thought?
Well, she does mopey well because that's what every character she's played prior to this has been. So yeah, she could do one character type and that's it.
Yeah. So Joe Martin coming in, like made Jodie look bad, I thought, quite frankly.
She's got way more sort of charisma and screen presence than Jodie, possibly because she occupies a bit more of the screen than Jodie does. But like,
well, she's like a foot taller too.
But yeah, she is. You listen to her when she speaks, and she kind of seems like she's having fun with the role a bit more than Jodie does.
Well, there's always that ingredient that Jodie Whittaker never had and never will have, where there's a seriousness behind the Doctor, which Joe Martin, if they wanted to go with the female Doctor, I think she pulled the role off very well. And one thing that I keep having to say 15 times a day, which I don't know, I might as well just give up because I'm talking to a brick wall. I have nothing against the actress, like nothing at all. My problem is the motivations behind this and how it completely disrespects. And again, we talk about this a lot, but it completely disrespects over 56 years of history. So it's why it was done, not what was done.
I think if they foreshadowed her as some kind of future incarnation of the Doctor, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. That's interesting to see that she'll eventually become, this version. But then, like now you're sort of saying before William Hartnell, there was like this other Doctor, and potentially there was others before her as well. So there might have been dozens or hundreds of versions of this Doctor stretching, back into infinity. Now there's no limits to it. There's no sense of where this character started, because you've now established a world where there was, you could have as many Doctors before this as possible, a whole new regeneration cycle, if that's what you get. Even another one before that. So it's like now you've got no frame of reference for where this character started off. And it just seems like an odd choice.
And a desperate one.
Yeah, like I'm not even I'm a casual fan of this show at best. Like I don't have the kind of deep knowledge of it that you guys probably have, but even I can see the problems this causes.
Can I address one thing that's been getting thrown at me a lot, and I don't know if you've talked about it, Bowlestrek, and I don't know if other people have shot this down. This is only I've seen it. Like I got it emailed to me. She's not the Valiard. She's not going to be the Valiard. They would never make a black female Doctor, an evil, duplicitous version of the Doctor. So if it was what Bowlestrek so wisely said in his video, if this was from RTD or Moffat and this was 10 years ago, I'd believe that. Yeah, I could. And then the other theory was, and I don't know if this was prior to the Mirror article coming out, where they did define that this is the Doctor. It's not an alternate reality Doctor. It couldn't be a Doctor from like so far in the future that they would have forgotten the sonic screwdriver. Although I don't think that it would have to be 1,000,000 years, because the Doctor right now, how old is the Doctor right now, Bowlestrek? 3,000 years.
Well, when the show and the Doctor's age has been inconsistent because he was several thousand years when John Pertwee took over it, and it's mentioned.
Sorry, I might be crazy. I thought the Doctor when he regenerates. I thought he aged at the same rate that a normal human would.
Well, it's the time's off screen. So Tom Baker, that Doctor, was around 400 years old.
Yeah.
The sixth Doctor was 600 and some odd years old. When the show came back,
they said he was 900. Yeah,
900. So there was that. And the Christopher Eccleston starting from the last season, and the David Tennant years actually take place in real time. So that was definitely his shortest regeneration, even though it actually took up 2 cycles. But the Matt Smith years, the rumor is, well, it's not necessarily explained on screen, but you get a feeling that it's been hinted at about 200 years past during the loss of Amy and Rory to when he went to his isolation, redesigned the TARDIS. So it's the idea is that there's another 200 years there. And then you add the time that he was on Trenzalore, which is 1,000 years. So the Matt Smith regeneration was about 1,200 years old. So when he regenerated into Capaldi, he would have been 2,000 years old. Capaldi, we know, is at least 50 years of that cycle. Actually, no, 50 years when he was at the university, plus 24 that he spent with River. So let's just say, for argument's sake, the Capaldi doctor might have been 75 years. So he's 2,075 years old, let's say, roughly, when he regenerates into Dr. Nasty.
Jesus Christ.
And then she said, I'm thousands of years old. I guess that could mean a couple, but usually I think that's more.
Yeah, I've always taken that one as, thousands of years old. Well, technically it's right because she is over 2,000 years old, but she doesn't know anything about the past shows because she refuses to watch it, so she would have no idea how old the Doctor is anyway. And then, of course, if you want to add Heaven Sent, well, then he's millions of years old, but that was a pocket universe, so we're not even going to go into that.
Billions of years, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, where else could they put her? I mean, they could make it some trick, and they could be lying, but they're going to have to put her. I mean, if you're looking at the TARDIS, and I just saw the exterior and the interior, I didn't get a good. I haven't, I've only watched it once, thankfully, and yeah, I got to look at the outer sign. Like when this TARDIS comes in, they tried to make it look like First Doctor era, or at least early Doctor era, anyway. And I know that the Mirror had mentioned that they could shoehorn her in between 2 and 3.
No, they can't. Not the 13 regeneration rule. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. So the only thing you're left with is a new cycle of regenerations, or a forgotten cycle of regeneration. So, and you brought it up, Bowlestrek, and it was brought up in a chat, and prior to that, and that might have been Matrix Lord, I don't know, who talked about maybe a prior entire set of regenerations that might be female, which, I mean, I can totally see them doing. At this point, it's rewriting. It's more rewriting instead of just moving forward. If you want to do other things, that's great. No, we have to step on the past.
You're not allowed to do that, though, because you can't just establish that the whole Doctor being a female thing is just a recent development and it's like some crazy new idea. Now we have to establish the idea that the Doctor used to be female, and then it went through this crazy regeneration cycle of being a man. But the true form of the Doctor is female. We've just forgotten about it.
Oh yeah.
One thing that they forgot
plays perfectly into like the way they want to frame this now.
Well, we've seen the Doctor as a child as well in Listen, and they deliberately, if you look at the hair, it's young William Hartnell that we see as the child Doctor. So even within that, unless somehow he regressed. But everything prior to this era points to the fact that the first Doctor was the first Doctor, and we see him as a kid, 2014, so only a little over 6 years ago. But obviously, Chibs didn't watch that episode either.
And he refers to himself as a boy. Well, the one thing I know is the third Doctor episode, and he was talking about the monk who was sitting at the tree, and I can't remember what episode it was, but I just saw it a little while ago. And yeah, but it's not going to stop them. They'll just say, well, the Doctor started out as a baby in this new, or some dumb, like, hey, I don't want it to be true. Fans out there, this is like the last thing I want to be true at all. But considering the only reason I've ever ever talked about it was because it's so believable. Like, we've seen this happen with so many things.
Can I just also say, like, the Time Lord that was sent to track down the Doctor, like the original, I guess the old Doctor, she was dumb as fuck, man.
Yep.
Like, when she picks up that gun and it's like, I'm going to blast you with this gun that you've been in possession of for decades and that you could have tampered with in any way, and I'm not going to use my own weapon. And even the Doctor's like, no, don't do it. Don't. It'll end badly for you. And then she pulls the trigger and it backfires and kills her. It's like, how the fuck did you become a Time Lord? Like, you're like dumber than a fucking like 5-year-old. Like, you fall for like the easiest play in the book. Like, that's the level of writing that you're at. It's just like, it's we need a double cross of some sort. Oh, just put this in, that'll do. The gun backfires and kills her. Fuck's sake. And then amazing, like, stunning and brave Doctor picks the gun up and she's like, I've adjusted it so that it fires properly now, so I can shoot any of you guys if I want to. Like, again, just lazy writing.
And the female Jadoon. Because we had to point that out. Woman to woman.
Yeah, that was a nice little throwaway line. I liked how only one Dejuna ever takes its helmet off because they've only got one latex mold for the
Yep.
face.
Yep.
That was amazing. Oh, I just want to address a rumor here, by the way, going around in chat that I've got the coronavirus. There's only one kind of corona that I've got in my body, and it's nothing to do with the virus. So don't worry.
Yay, Corona.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want you to get a virus.
No.
No. Well, it's doing the rounds. It's like the new T virus.
6 cases in Canada.
Yeah, but there's 2 in the UK now as well. Like I think I've seen enough zombie outbreak movies. You just got to shoot them, and take your chances. That's why. Well, I mean, this is why I think you're lucky in America because you've actually got guns and stuff to defend yourself. But like here, yeah, I'm just stuck in a house and there's there's nothing. Just got to trust that the virus won't make its way to where I live.
We got, I'm in a dense big city. I feel so comfortable right now where everybody's wearing masks.
Yeah.
To go outside.
Just go. Yeah. Just stay in your house. You'll be fine.
Anytime someone like coughs to clear their throat, do you just like run?
Yeah. In the gym today, I was like spraying down my machine like I worked there. I was one of the cleaning people. So I actually borrowed their spray bottle. I'm like, can I borrow that for a second?
Yeah.
So,
I become one of those hand sanitizer carrying people. I don't know. I'm a hypochondriac, so I'm just gonna stay here and not leave at all.
Someone's mentioned here they don't have houses in Scotland. Well, we have caves, and we like to think of them as our houses.
I have igloos.
Somebody did point out in the chat that the bubonic plague will probably, scare off the coronavirus that we have from all the poop we have in our city. So you're probably right.
Oh yeah,
you're something else.
Are you in San Francisco by any chance?
I am.
Yeah. The poop patrols. Yeah, that's although apparently Portland has poop patrols too. I don't know, what do these 2 cities have in common? I don't know. It's a mystery.
Is it as bad as Tim Pool makes it out to be, that there's just like feces all over the ground like when you're walking down the street, or is it that just a total exaggeration?
No, it's really not. There's certain parts. I mean, there's parts that are fine, but if you go to downtown San Francisco on 6th Street, you will see a needle. I guarantee it. A needle and a poop. Or a needle in some poop.
Mate, I'm from Scotland. Like a needle and a poop is kind of like a good night out for me. Oh man, like obviously we were talking about Doctor Who there, and I think as bad as this episode was, I think Orphan 55 is still worse for me just because it was so bad on every front. When I look at that episode and how it was made and how it was shot and everything, I was like, Jesus Christ, you can see how they basically had half a script that was sort of ready, and it was just like, well, we've got to make our episode count, so fuck it, just use it, that'll do.
And they only had 10 to make. Well, yeah, Orphan 55, although I hate this one more because this one was canon destroying. But the funny thing about this episode is, how much they tried to cram in, and obviously Captain Jack was filmed well after the fact in reshoots.
Oh, I didn't even talk about him. Fuck, I forgot about him completely.
He got overshadowed. I mean, that's...
And his hair was a little too black. Well, we've been waiting 9 years for Captain Jack to return, and it had to be like he's been back on Big Finish for I think 5-6 years now, but this is the first time we've seen him on screen in 2011, and you kind of got to feel for John Bowerman and Nicholas Briggs because they both had to appear in this episode that completely destroyed Doctor Who. So I'm sorry, guys.
But you probably think like Barrowman had no clue what he was taking part in. Like you say, his scenes were completely separate from the rest of the plot.
Well, this was kept under wraps, so there's no idea. There's no way he would have known.
Yeah, and he kind of has that look about him where it's like, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm just going to be super enthusiastic about everything and, like overact to the nth degree because I'm just really happy to be back on Doctor Who again, and yeah, like I just got that vibe from him. It was like it was Captain Jack times 1,000 when I saw him.
Yeah, he's been begging to come back on for years, and they wouldn't let him on. Again, I don't know why. The fans have been wanting it. Now it got wasted on this, and he's not going to be back this season. And I don't know if this new Doctor is going to be back this season, maybe towards the end. But the way I read into the Mirror article that was interviewing with that interviewed Chibnall is like, this is a one-off, and we're back to our episodic Doctor Who, and this is all supposed to lead into next season, which is sounding more and more like it might be shortened, and who knows?
The next season is going to be a token. Like we've got to give it to them so they can save face and get the same number of seasons that Capaldi and Tennant and stuff did, and that's all because
2 years from now.
Yeah, and if Whittaker had bowed out after one season, it would have been a humiliation. It would have just been admitting, like, yep, nobody liked this. We just had to run away with our tails between our legs. So yeah, she'll get her 3 seasons, but like you say, I wouldn't be surprised if it's an abbreviated season. And I'm calling it right now, by the way, the next Doctor is not going to be a white male.
Oh, no.
No.
I think it probably will be a man, but I think it'll be a person of color, almost certainly. If it even happens, because I think this show just needs to go on hiatus now.
And the 60th anniversary is in 3 years?
That will be in 2023. It'll be like the 30th and 40th anniversary, which was a completely non-event because there was no Doctor Who.
Yep.
Yeah. I honestly think they just need to go on hiatus for a while. They need to take a break, get some new showrunners, get some good scripts that really they've taken the time to polish up and come up with some good ideas, and then bring them back, because as it stands, you can tell they've got no creativity and no imagination amongst the writing team. But that's why you get all these episodes that are set on Earth, just dealing with like present day politics, because that's all they can talk about. That's all they know. And then, whenever they try to branch out beyond that, it's just a total failure. It's a total disaster.
And they have so many writers, and even some still that are around from the classic series, that would be more than capable of pulling off a competent season, even though a lot of them will virtue signal until their mouths fall off. I don't think they'd be willing to participate in this mess anyway. But he's got this stable of your Doctor Who now consists of crap written by Chibs and crap written by ideologues. And the one that wrote this week's episode is one of their ideologues. So it's just the people that he has writing this, like, and you've gone over this in videos as well, Gary, most of them no genre experience. A lot of them no writing experience beyond propaganda. So that's what Doctor Who has degenerated into, where when the show came back, you had directors from, Graham Harper, one of the best directors from the original series, coming back. You had several writers from Big Finish, people that knew what they were doing writing episodes, and now it's just people that only marginally know Doctor Who. And that's where a lot of this continuity comes into. And Chibs claims he's a Doctor Who fan, but I to be honest, I find that kind of questionable. Because if you look at the canon violations, and this casting, this is a major canon violation, because outside of this being a future incarnation, which we know obviously for the way it's going, it isn't, there's no way you can fit this in other than saying that there was 13 regenerations before William Hartnell. And we know from Listen that there wasn't. He was the first Doctor.
Yep. And Vinay Patel, I'm looking at his IMDb. He wrote a big article on privilege. And then his TV writing consists of Murdered by My Father and The Good Karma Hospital, and like 2 shorts that were pretty much like student shorts.
He did Demons of the Punjab as well, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where the ideologue comes from. Yeah, I've decided I'm not even going to discuss that episode anymore. Just look at the comments on my video. Actually, I've got to republish that one too.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one actually. So it's the partition of India, isn't it?
Yeah, which took
it's basically like then British Empire bad.
Well, he took one of the most complex geopolitical events of the 20th century outside of war, which would you take you need a 10-part documentary to explain the whole problems involved with the partition of India and why it came about, and he just glosses past it. And tries to explain it without really understanding it in 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to hear, like, someone's take on it from like the 21st century who's got no connection to it and very little knowledge of the actual historical events. Just saying, like, yeah, this is all the reasons why Britain did everything wrong, because, yeah, of course we did. I wanted to respond to a comment here, actually. It was, if the critical drinker was in Star Trek, he would be the engineer. I would like to be, yeah. I always liked Scotty as a character, apart from the morbid obesity in the later years. But yeah, he was a great guy.
Yeah, and he didn't even have a Scottish accent. He's actually Canadian.
He is, yeah.
It's weird. Like I don't know how many people remember the Star Trek audiobooks from Simon and Schuster from the 80s and the 90s, but a lot of them were read by James Doohan. It was just so weird hearing him without the Scottish accent.
Yeah, he obviously he hammed it up obviously quite a bit in Trek. The one thing that was cool about the guy, well, quite a few things, but he actually fought in D-Day. Like, he was in World War II, and he got machine gunned at one point, and he lost several fingers on one of his hands, or a couple of fingers, and you can see it in some of the shots, how they've been sheared off. And I was like, fucking hell, that's a guy who was in World War II, and now he's like out in space being this awesome engineer. No, a cool guy. I actually had a lot of time for James Doohan. And I always remember this clip of him where he was talking about going to conventions and how a woman approached him and talked about being she was in a really awful place in her life and she was suicidal. And he said, look, I'm going to be at this convention in this particular part of the States, a few months from now. What I expect to see you there to come and talk to me, and you better be there. And so she did. And then, she appeared at various conventions over the years to meet with him and talk to him and stuff. And then didn't hear from her for years after that. And then he got a letter from her saying, I just wanted to thank you for all the things you did for me, for keeping me going. And I've just completed my degree in engineering. And I've kind of got this new life because of you. And you could see how he was close to tears just recounting that thing that he'd saved a person's life just by telling them to meet with him. And I thought that was a brilliant thing for the guy to have done for a person that he didn't even know.
Yep. Yeah. And now, that's a beautiful story. And then, sorry to bring it down, but you go to a Star Trek convention and even bit actors are asking for $30, $40 a signature now. When you should just be there. Sorry, if you're an actor and you're part of Star Trek and you can't give an hour, a couple of hours to people for free, sign your name.
Well, these are people that have come a long way to see you and various other people, and they've given you their time. Be humble and just say thank you. Thanks for coming to see me. Thanks for coming to talk to me. And I wouldn't expect anything from them.
And James Doohan, he was doing Star Trek conventions pretty much up until the end, because he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and passed away in 2005. So he was very, very ill the last few years of his life, and he kept going to conventions until he physically could not do them anymore. And this is we would never see this from any of these current year actors, but it's just. He was an actor from a different generation. It's an actor that genuinely appreciated his fans, whereas now it's just pathetic. Although Patrick Stewart, I don't know, has he even done any conventions?
He did his first one this year.
Yeah, so
one after admitting, he made an appearance and talked. I'm sorry, his first one was when they announced the show, so that was 2 years ago, and then he did another one. So those were his first two. And in his first one, he admitted he hadn't watched all the Star Trek, all the Next Generation episodes.
And Star Trek: The Next Generation has been off the air for 26 years.
Yep. Hasn't given it much thought, which is fine if you look at it as a job, but then you come back and one of your requests is to not have the crew, and that's at the behest of Sir Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
And he had to be talked back into it, and I think it was due to the test screenings. When they changed all this stuff, it was right around Comic-Con this year, San Diego Comic-Con when I went. That's when I think the reshoots happened right before that. They had fired a large portion of the crew as far as costume designers. I know because I talked to one who got fired, and they weren't happy. It was just a mess. And it's I saw Nichelle Nichols at the convention. She looked great, and she's
Nichelle.
Yep.
She's got dementia. This was her last appearance. I if she wanted money, a few bucks for her grandkids or whatever, sure. I don't have a problem with that. But Wilson Cruz, come on.
I would have loved to have.
He loves us.
Yeah,
that's a whole other story. By the sounds of things.
Oh yeah, it is.
So what happened there?
I think we're both blocked actually on his Twitter.
I am blocked by so many people. Yep.
I'm seeing the chat. Sorry, I'm just seeing the chat here saying how Nichelle Nichols was gorgeous back in the day. She really was. Like when I look back at the original series, man, she was stunning.
She was well into her 50s, actually. Well, she's in her 80s now, and honestly, up until she became really ill about a year ago. But up until then, she always looked good for her age.
Yeah.
And then you have George
the best
Takei,
part in Star Trek 5 when she's doing her little dance with the leaves and stuff.
I did not know what to think during that scene.
I believe I think she was like 55 or something like that when that scene was shot.
Nichols was a trained dancer, though, wasn't she? Like that was her background before she got into acting.
And a musician as well. I believe she has a few albums out.
Yeah. So yeah.
Oh my God, I just went on Twitter for a second. Why did I do that?
No, I'm. You just look at my.
I'm
Twitter
out.
today.
I'm done.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to close this. Yeah, it's been a fun day on Twitter, but I'm not even going into that.
Why are you guys getting so much hate? I don't get this. Like, okay, like you might have a take on Doctor Who or whatever that people disagree with, but like, do they need to like make it that personal?
They really do.
Yeah.
Part of it, one of the biggest criticisms, they don't have any. So they come out and say, I mean, the one thing the critical drinker is very good at is explaining his arguments and why he doesn't like something. I like to think I'm somewhat good at, but not as good as him. Bowlestrek is great at it too. But the worst criticism I see towards us is we don't have any valid arguments for the show. I'm sorry, the writing isn't very good. That's a valid argument, and I could point out moment after moment in any episode of current Doctor Who where the writing doesn't establish a character, doesn't make a believable situation that I buy into. I have always said, and I'll always say, I wasn't for the female Doctor at all, but good writing could convince me of anything. When I went into The Witcher, and I know we feel differently about this, critical drinker, but I like The Witcher despite its flaws because I like the characters in it. They made some characters that I bought into, so I generally liked the show.
I agree with you on that one. Like I don't know what you took from my review, but like when I was talking about it, like my overall take was like, okay, it's got some problems in terms of like the chronology of how they tell the story. I think it's a little bit overcomplicated. I think the world building isn't very good to begin with, but like I like the characters and I think the show's got a lot of potential. That was my overall opinion of it.
I think it came together in the end a little bit. It was complicated though, and if you watch just because after I saw the first episode, I thought it was going to suck. I'm like, good damn, because the first episode is not great. I mean, Henry Cavill's great in it, but we had that little girl doing that. I want more from life, and I was just like, oh my God, this is going to be just woke trash. But maybe we saw it the same way. I'll have to watch your review again. I watched it, but like if you actually watch what the biggest problem is, people aren't watching our videos. They're not. I mean, if they did, you could certainly poke holes in my arguments all day long. But when you get personal, like Critical Drinker said, and listen, I've gotten emails saying horrible things about my kids because I'm, that stuff's and especially with Bowlestrek got something recently that was really horrible. People were just criticizing a TV show. That's all it is. Have some perspective on life.
Yeah, like, Jesus Christ, guys. Like, I mean, I know everyone watching this chat is probably like friendly to us anyway. But yeah, like we're just criticizing media. Like, we don't hate anyone like this involved in this stuff, but sometimes, the way things are put together isn't very good, and it's a good thing to call it out and get people to think about it. That's what we're trying to do ultimately, and we're not doing it maliciously or with like horrible motives. We're not horrific people or anything like that. I'm sure we're all like in real life we're nice enough folk who've got families and friends and everything like that. That's what we do. This is just a little thing that we're interested in and that we're passionate about. And I guess the same thing applies to us in some ways. Like, people who love, who love the current incarnation of Doctor Who, or love Star Trek Discovery, or Star Wars, or whatever. Like, we don't hate those people for liking those things, and I would be happy to have a sensible discussion with any of those people, and get their thoughts on it if they were willing to be civil about it. But the only time I have an issue is when people are just blindly following something because they refuse to see any other perspective, or they refuse to listen to any kind of criticism. That's when I have an issue with people like that, because it's like you're not even entertaining the notion of a different point of view.
No, it's one point of view and one point of view only. And I know that they don't actually watch our videos, because, and I could use my review of, the last episode as a perfect example. And they love calling me the R word and the S word. Even though in my last review, I said the race of the individual had no bearing on me. I praised the person's performance. I go after agendas, and we have proof that there are agendas, because the people involved with, all three of these franchises, but especially Doctor Who, have blatantly said this is what we're doing. And the funniest example I have is, it was kind of the channel that the video that made my channel explode back in 2017. And it was actually probably the most hate I've gotten until this week, where I did a video called "Is Doctor Who Becoming a PR Disaster?" And it was a video that I'd put up just when I was a little channel. It sat at like 300 views and then suddenly went viral over the course of the weekend. So that's where this whole Bowlestrek is a sexist thing came from. And I can tell that none of them actually watched the video. And back then I wasn't aggressive in my videos like I am now. I had a very monotoned approach, because I was trying to be as non-offensive as possible. And the whole premise of that video was, if they wanted to go about changing the gender of the Doctor, then there was a way they could have gone about doing it that wouldn't have alienated people. So the whole video was primarily a hypothetical scenario, where I'm saying, okay, if you want to change the Doctor, I used Olivia Colman as an example of somebody who could play the Doctor. So I'm not even throwing off the idea of casting a woman. I'm just saying, you guys are going about this the wrong way. If you wanted to do this, this is how you should have gone about doing it. And ever since then, I've been a sexist bastard. So I know they don't watch the videos. And I often say, and I've been doing it a lot lately, where if you like these shows, I'm perfectly fine with that. If you like Star Trek Discovery, if you like the 13th Doctor, and if you like Star Trek Picard, I'm perfectly happy for you. And there are a lot of people that and one thing I have been making clear a lot lately as well, it's not like it's everybody that likes the current iteration of Doctor Who that's going after us. It's only really a small number of a few hundred people at most that are going after us, but they are the most vocal. But if you like the 13th Doctor, I'm perfectly happy with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I've said before, I'm a big fan of the Resident Evil films. I know they are complete crap. I will admit they are complete crap, but for me, it's a guilty pleasure. And I've never gone after somebody for saying, oh, the Resident Evil movies are shit. And I've never gone after them and said, well, you don't like a franchise headed up by a strong female character, so you must be a sexist bastard. And then we pull out of examples where one thing, and I know Gary, you're like this as well. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I've watched those 7 seasons more times than I can count. And every time I even bring up things like that, it's like, oh, well, no, you're just pulling examples out of your ass. You hate women. You hate everyone. And then, although this week it's been over the top, and then I'm not going to repeat what it was on the stream, but the nastiest attack I've ever had, where what they actually did in this case was illegal, but it was the nastiest attack. So today kind of came to a head, and it's, and it's the same thing. What do? We criticize TV shows, and it's not like the three of us, spend all day just, oh my God, what have they done to Doctor Who? And that's all we think about. I'm like, we all have lives. We have families. This is not what we do. We criticize a TV show, and there was a time only a few years ago where that was perfectly acceptable. And when we used to criticize something like Doctor Who, we would have infights, but it wouldn't be resorting to the names that we're called now. It's, we don't like this era. We prefer this era. I've always said that until the 13th Doctor, I think Doctor Who season 24 is the worst thing ever expelled from the anus of Doctor Who. And I used to get in arguments about that, but it wasn't because I was sexist. It's because we had different opinions. A lot of people, and many people that I'm friends with, hate the Colin Baker era. I've always enjoyed the Colin Baker era, and I see where they were going with that.
Yep.
So we used to have normal discussions about that, but we can't have those normal discussions now.
Well, I think it's because, the element of sort of everything being politically charged, it adds that extra, like that emotional element to things for people. So you're not just debating a show anymore; you're debating an entire philosophy on the world and life. And so people treat it as if it's that, and it's like a matter of life or death for them. And honestly, like, I would be happy to have someone who loves Doctor Who, the current incarnation, or who loves The Last Jedi or whatever, to come onto this stream and talk to us and have a reasonable discussion with them. If they were willing to be civil, I'd be like, yeah, more than happy to like listen to your point of view on this and give you my perspective. But with people like that, I find it's very rare that you get someone like that. Most of the time this is amazing and it's stunning and brave, and if you don't agree with me, then you're a racist or you're sexist or whatever it might be. And you can't have a discussion with a person like that because there's no common ground. There's no kind of common understanding of how you're going to discuss things. It's like, you either agree with me or you're wrong.
Yeah, and there are people out there that are 13th Doctor fans, but civilized people that would love to, and I'm sure we've all received messages like this, who would love to talk about it, but they are concerned with the backlash or what, because they see what happened. Like in the case of me, and this came up with another YouTuber who we do have some different opinions on the 13th Doctor, but I've been watching this YouTuber for years. We exchange tweets on Twitter. He's a great guy. We get along, and just by mentioning me or even being related to me, there was not related, but actually communicating with me in a civilized way. Then they tried to cancel this individual earlier this week. So a lot of people don't want to come out because they see what's happening to us. And just by talking to me, even if it's in a civilized way, even if we have a friendly exchange, which I was still having up until a little over a year ago, then you are lumped in with the rest of us. So they don't even want anybody from their side to have a discussion with us. The most they will do, there are some YouTubers that are against this. They don't know Doctor Who that well. And one who I won't mention his name, but he's also a friend, was completely hoodwinked by one of these people a year ago. And it was turned into, I don't know what you call an exposure piece or something like that. But we can't have a civilized discussion. I have discussions with people on Twitter just on a one-on-one basis in DMs, because that's as far as they want to go. They don't want to publicly come out and even debate with us. So we are scum. And I think it was one. There was one tweet though that came out this week that I actually had a good laugh at. This I won't mention. I don't mention names, but this Twitter user actually was the meme, has purple hair and has been spamming the hell out of my Twitter along with a couple hundred other people. And if you remember, a few days ago I set out tweets. So I was retweeting people's Doctor Who videos. So I had you in there, Gary. I had Drinker, Doomcock, TARDIS Zone, Blue Bonnet Whovian, and the response was, "Yeah, you're tweeting your only friends, the only people that will watch it. Nobody watches you guys." And then I'm thinking, okay, so the people that I've mentioned, and then if you factor in me, total combined subscriber base is just under 750,000 people, and yet nobody watches us. We're just irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously just trying to discount you as if, like, you know, your opinion means nothing on this one. Like, when I made Doctor Who videos, you know, I had no idea how well they would be received. Like, it could have been that, you know, I'd get like a quarter of what I normally did, but like the Orphan 55 video had like 320,000 views or whatever. You know, people obviously respond to it because there's a lot of people that feel the same way.
Yep.
You know, and that number is way over like what my actual number of subscribers is. You know, these are people who just are fans of Doctor Who and don't like the way it's going.
Yeah, and your video went viral, so it was obviously picked up in the recommended feeds. And this is not the, you know, the whatever they characterize the Not My Doctors as, which would be, you know, a lot of us. But yeah, your video, as most of your videos do, it ended up going viral. So the people that are watching your video are people that are going on to YouTube searching Doctor Who, Jodie Whittaker, whatever. So the response on your videos, this is the response coming from the general population. They're not our followers. They're people that are just coming across the video. And I'm sure if you look at your dislike ratio in that video, I guarantee the like ratio is well over 95%, if not higher.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, this is the thing. Like, obviously, there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way, and it's like when someone, all it takes is a few people to kind of bring the subject up, and it kind of opens the floodgates. And I think you should be able to talk about stuff like this. I think it's really sad what you were describing, where people want to have a civilized discussion with you about the problems of Doctor Who, but they feel like they can't do it because they're going to get ostracized by their friends. You know, just for talking to you. It's like, what the fuck have you become? You know, if that's what the fandom is, if that's their attitude, you know, that's bullshit. Like, it's pathetic.
It is, and it's the reason YouTube has become a place where people can come and talk about that stuff, because they haven't been able to. Comment sections were shut down on websites. You're being Facebook, and really the correlation is the same. When Facebook groups started shutting down, and it started shutting down civil discourse based on a few there's trolls everywhere on both sides, bad actors everywhere on both sides, but it started shutting down any kind of discourse at all. And what, you know, that was the main reason my channel even started taking off, was when I stopped riding the fence and I finally got pissed off enough about Doctor Who. Because even after Jodie was announced, I'm like, I'm gonna wait and see. I'm gonna wait until she's on the screen, and then I'll make my judgment. And I was about 3 episodes in, and after I saw Rosa, that was it. I mean, that's all I needed. And that's where people more, because the dislike ratio of my videos was horrible before that. And then all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden more and more people came in, and they just needed a place to go and talk about it and vent. And that's it. And then they go about their day. And now we're being conflated into all this other political garbage that the Bowlestrek and I never bring up politics on my channel. I don't bring it up on my Twitter. I don't bring it up at Facebook. I just want to talk about entertainment. And I don't like, and I'm not saying I disagree with some of these politics. It's just, it's not politics. It's ideology. It is this political correctness that, you know, just being entrenched, that feeling like you're right all the time. And if you're not on this side, then you're an ist or a phobe. and I just had enough of it. I was pissed off. And listen, there's actually examples of old franchises that were brought back with respect. It's rare, but Cobra Kai is a good show that was brought back with respect, that shows reverence to the older characters, that takes them, moves them forward, introduces us to new characters that are not now. Season 1 was better than season 2, but it's still
here.
Yeah, it still brings it has characters we care about. I think the very best example is a show nobody watched, Ash versus Evil Dead. It brought in 2 new characters, Pablo and Kelly, and they were great. And we had Ash, and the first season was perfect. It showed perfect reverence to what came before. It moved everything forward. It still felt the same but new, and you have to be into it. But it was great. It would have been very easy to bring it with especially with Star Wars. You get the original 3 back together for a couple scenes each movie, and then I don't know. I was never a fan of killing them. You could have them go off into the sunset and have them work together with the new characters, mentoring the new characters, and that way. But you can't show that now, and that's where the political ideology gets in. That's where the feminism comes in, because you can't show a woman being mentored by a man or receiving power from a man. That
or
would be
losing to a man,
or
anything.
losing. Exactly.
This is what like does it in for me. It's like the reason you like characters is because you see them struggle, and you see them fail, and you see them pick themselves up and learn something and then move beyond it and succeed. That is the essence of developing a character, but they are so afraid of being criticized for failing these characters in some way, or portraying women in a weak light, or whatever it might be, that they never show them lose, and they never show them struggle or get into any kind of disagreements or be challenged in any way. And you're just looking at it like this character is being wrapped in fucking cotton wool throughout their entire character arc. They're never really challenged. They're never really put up against it, and they never fail at anything. It's like, what is there to like? There's no character here. There's no development. It's just a perfect person who wins at everything. This is, and it's like, I hate having to say the same fucking thing over and over again, because I feel that's what I have to do in my videos. But like, it's like nobody in Hollywood fucking understands it. It's like it's been the people who used to be so good at telling stories have been supplanted by a new generation who have got no fucking clue. Or they're being completely overruled, and they're being forced to do something that they don't want to do with their storytelling. But either way, it results in a shitty end product. And that was, for me, that was when my channel took off, when I just said, right, I'm done with like putting up with this shit now. Like, I need to speak out about this, because it's killing our modern culture. It's killing our storytelling. It's killing our ability to get behind anything. You know, you've either got like characters who are given a complete free ride, or you've got like empty-headed nihilists like Ryan Johnson trying to subvert everything, and they can't stand the concept of like a classic hero's journey. Either way, you're telling shit stories, and it's so depressing. It's so frustrating. You know, that's what made my channel kind of get started in the first place, when I just says I need to speak out about this, because it's ruining what we have now.
It is, and it's important, and it's so obvious, and the biggest problem with this is you see through this, I see through this, and our critics know this as well, and that's why most of the arguments are disingenuous. I don't have a political motive. I am just pointing out what I see, and what I see is I see writers afraid to write. What you just said it best. They're writing in fear. So we're going to write these blocks of wood, and then when people don't like them, we're going to tell those people, no, you're wrong. You don't understand it. You're dumb, or you're this, or you're that. I mean, when did that crap start? I know the creatives have always felt like that, but they've always had some. It's never been perfect, but we're connected more than ever now, and this is where the repurposers and creatives in Hollywood are going to have to shift their thinking. And thankfully, there's people like Critical Drinker out there to call this crap out. And that's the only way it's going to change, if it does. I don't know. I know your motivation is probably the same as mine. I don't expect to change the world. I'm just going to speak my mind. That's all. That's all I can do.
I'm not under any illusions that I'm in a position to affect change or anything, but I just want to make people think a little bit more critically about the movies that they see, and understand a little bit of how storytelling should be done. That's what I enjoy the most, is like giving examples of when it's done well, and saying like this is how you tell a story, this is how you develop characters, this is how you progress all of these things properly, and this is why it doesn't work with what they're doing. And people, I don't want them to then say like, oh well, Drinkers told me to do this, so this is what I think now. It's like I just want them to think for themselves and analyze it a little bit more in detail, and once they do, they'll see most of the things that we see. They'll understand the same problems that we perceive. That's the best thing I can hope for, and if I can do that with a few people, then I've done my job, and I consider that a well spent time.
Yeah, and sorry guys, I'm just going to step away for a quick second, but I'll be right back.
No problem.
No problem.
One thing I might suggest, because I'm just quite aware that the super chats have built up quite a bit here. Gary, would it be all right if we look through some of them and?
Absolutely. I'm sorry I'm on a time limit today because I have that other live stream, but I will hang out and read some with you. Sure.
No problem. What sort of time have you got here? What time?
I got like a half hour. Is that cool?
Okay, cool. Yeah, we should be able to get through quite a few. I'll do my best anyway. Right, so Trek Dog says, "Hail Critical Drinker, Nerdrotic, and Bowlestrek. Great panel. If you would be the next showrunner for Picard, what would you change? Critical Drinker, please return Gary for Friday Night Tights. Otherwise, the geeky gamers will only talk about Star Wars." Yeah, he'll be there in time for that. Don't worry. Yeah. What would we do if we were the showrunners for Picard?
Not do the show. Bring back the original crew. Not bring back the Borg or the Romulans, and just have them. I would focus on the characters, and you know what, the big bad. You can make up any kind of cataclysmic thing where they could just simply go out and go on one last adventure. I mean, you'd want to give it some thought, certainly, but you can tell a better story over. It belongs on television. You can tell a better story. But if I was running the show, I would bring in Naren Shankar. That would be the first person I brought in. He's running the Expanse right now. I give him whatever money he wants to write Star Trek.
Yeah, I would. If it was me and I had free reign, I would do some kind of super team up where I had Picard with Janeway and
ooh yeah,
what's the dude from Deep Space Nine again? Cisco, that was it. Fucking hell. Yeah, like them and as many of the actors as we could get from each of those different series, and have them all go on an adventure together or get caught up in some adventure. I think that would be the sort of team up that people would fucking love. And yeah, give them an actual ship that they're in command of, and get them to go out there for, like you say, one last adventure. Make it epic. Make all these characters like be together one last time. I think that could be a good show.
It worked in the Star Trek movies in the 80s. I mean, you had a bunch. They just made up an excuse why this old crew was back together on the ship, and they were always in some sort of retirement everyone, and
DeForest Kelly with his massive beard and like in the motion picture.
Yeah,
that was great.
Or if you want to bring back like a singular villain, like a Khan or something like that, do it with somebody. I don't know, do it with something from the series that maybe something would know. I would just not use the Borg. It's too difficult.
I don't know about you, but like honestly, the more I learn about the Borg, the less interested I am in them.
Yeah.
Like they were at their most fascinating the first time they were introduced in TNG, when they were this unknown monolithic species. Like exactly as they were portrayed, they had no collective leadership or no command structure or anything like that. They were just a hive mind. I was like, fucking hell, that is terrifying. Like they are so different from everything else that we've seen. But then you learn more about them, and they've got a Borg queen, and they've got different factions within them. You've got Hugh, who's like a dissident, and he's leading other Borg who are disconnected from the hive mind. I don't want any of that. I don't want that detail. The Borg were great as an idea. I don't want the mundane reality of the Borg.
I could not agree more. I thought they were the coolest concept ever brought into Star Trek ever, and it was just overused and ruined. And yeah, it sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I would do it.
Yeah, if there's anyone from Paramount listening, DM me on Twitter and we'll get something sorted out. I will have you a screenplay within a couple of weeks. Don't worry.
There you go.
Charles Caballero says, you've talked about reviewing Rocky 4 and its sequel, Rocky 4 times 2. I'm not going to call it Creed 2. Do you think Adonis would have been more likable if he outright lost to Victor instead of disqualification in the fight? Okay, right. From my own point of view, I don't think it would have made a huge amount of difference. The reality is that he got his ass kicked, whether it was a DQ or like a title loss. He got his ass beat by like someone who was bigger and younger and stronger than him and who dealt him a serious blow. And it was just the exact same fucking plot of Rocky 3. And he has to like rediscover his passion, and he has to rediscover his confidence in himself. This is why I don't like the Creed movies, because they're just rehashing the plots of the Rocky films. But I don't think it would have made a huge amount of difference to whether or not I liked him. I think Adonis Creed was more likable in Creed 2 than he was in the first one, because at least he had a character arc. At least he had some kind of struggle, and Michael B. Jordan actually gave somewhat of a decent performance in the second one, so I'll give him that. He was a fucking block of wood in the first one. I don't know, Gary, if you've seen the Creed movies and what your thoughts are.
I have not. I have not.
Okay, no, that's cool then. Gail Mibson says, "Have a drink on me. Keep on. Thanks, man. Appreciate it." Drinker, thanks for making Sam Neill's scream a meme. It was always a meme. It was fucking fantastic. The scream from Event Horizon, it gets me every time.
Love it.
Brings a tear to my eye. It's so applicable to so many situations as well. I love it. Cushion, please, says, Critical Drinker, I tried convincing my friend how bad the Watchmen series was. Will you ever do another video so I can just link them to him, or was the first episode all you could handle? No, I actually watched it all the way through, and I am kind of planning to just do an overall series 1 review, because the more I saw of that series, the more it pissed me off, the more disrespectful it was. I think they fucked over so many original characters like Dr. Manhattan and Ozymandias for the sake of either cheap laughs or to prove some kind of political point. Watchmen for me is almost like the ultimate example of this kind of present day, we've got to shove modern day politics into fucking everything kind of mentality.
It was a
shitty show.
It was the very definition of it. I went live after every episode. That was the worst criticism. Doomcock was with me, and oh my God, the shit we got for this. And it was made for that. It was made not to be critic proof, to try to subvert every single thing from something that was originally subvertive and cutting edge and groundbreaking. And they just simply made it agenda. That's all. I mean, I don't know if you could explain the ending to me. I can't. I watched it. I don't necessarily. It only existed to piss people off. It was a giant troll job.
It infuriated me because you've got Dr. Manhattan, who can see the past and the future, and all realities kind of exist simultaneously for him. Mm-hmm. So he knows how the way everything's going to play out. And basically he sacrifices himself to save Angela, and he kills everyone except that one fucking guy who's on the disintegration gun that's going to like zap him into the prison cell. It's like, why didn't you just kill that guy? You obviously knew exactly where he was and what he was going to do. You had no limits to your power. What the fuck? Like, why did you do this? And Manhattan's arc in the movie and the comic series gradually becoming detached from reality or from humanity, because his mind existed on a completely different plane, and the idea that he would be bound by the same concerns that we do was just silly. Almost, it was trivial for him. this was a guy who perceived the universe on a cosmic scale. And so you've now regressed him to the point where he falls in love with a single woman, and he's willing to sacrifice his entire existence to save her. It was so fucking forced and stupid.
Stunning and brave. She's
was
stunning and brave. It made him reattach to humanity.
Yeah, I was literally shaking.
I was literally shaking, and he didn't deserve his power anymore. So he gave it to her and killed himself, because I mean, there's no subtlety in the symbolism there at all. But
no.
But it's still, if you think about it, it was still a woman receiving power from a man. So that was the major flaw at the end. So
yeah,
there you go.
Again, power that she didn't deserve or earn, or was incapable of wielding in any way. So yeah, awful show, terrible message, completely like bastardized the source material. And from what I understand, the original author had wanted nothing to do with it, and I don't blame him. I still maintain, and I get a lot of shit for this, but like the Zack Snyder movie was much more faithful to the ethos of the comic book.
That's why I like you. I like the Zack Snyder movie, and it changes something major at the end, but I know a little bit about the politics. It gets it.
Yeah, it gets the point across. It achieves the same aim. It just does it by slightly like easier means, basically.
And up until that end, it is almost freaking frame for frame. It matches the story, especially the 4-hour version. It was so well done, folks, that it killed the sales of the Watchmen trade paperback for a while, because everybody had felt like they'd seen it. And that was measurable. I used to sell comic books, and I used to sell comic books.
Oh, damn.
I sold 10 to 20 Watchmen trade paperbacks a week, every week for years. The movie comes out and the sales jump right before the movie, and then nobody buys anything for like 6 months. And then it goes back to selling 5 to 10 to 20 every month.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I honestly thought it would have been the opposite. I would have thought people would be like, "Oh, I've seen the movie. I now want to see the book that spawned this."
I would have thought so too, and that's why I was stuck with a bunch for a long time.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I sold them out. But Sin City, that happened as well. I mean, I don't know. It might have been a regional hit. I know it wasn't the biggest hit in the world, but God, I was selling so many Sin City graphic novels. It was like printing money.
Nice,
good time.
Captain Spire says, what Picard went through in Tapestry, Measure of a Man, Conspiracy, All Good Things, Generations, Insurrection, Picard would never pull a Bruce Wayne.
Nope.
No. Oh, pull a Bruce Wayne. Oh, now it's called pulling a Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
That's wrong too. And I know Nolan did that one, but that was my biggest problem with that. Ouch.
But yeah, Picard from TNG is very separate from the Picard of the movies, and then the Picard of like Star Trek Picard. Like they are like three different men basically who have different priorities and different personalities. So it's kind of hard to measure them up against each other.
And that's always been the problem that I've had with the TNG movies as well, and even in Generations, which was shot days after All Good Things. Even by then, it's like, I don't know, maybe it was a conscious decision on his part. But yeah, he did shift the character, and the Captain Picard, the mannerisms, everything with the Picard that we got in Nemesis bore almost no resemblance to what we had in the TV series. But with Nemesis, I found that with every character, and especially as the movies went on, where it's almost like across the board, they forgot who they were actually playing.
Yeah. You've got the barest sort of semblance of the character in the movies, but like ultimately it has to fit into this action kind of set piece. And I think the other problem that they often have in the movies is that there's too many characters and there's not enough for them to do. So they have to think up stuff for them to do. This is why, like, often Riker is going to go off on his own and he has to fight some person or do something, like, because he can't just be there next to Picard doing stuff, because they have to like separate them and give them individual goals, but they often feel contrived.
Yep.
No, and that, you know what, that always thought the films exposed the biggest difference between the original series. I mean, it's obvious and the Next Generation was they were so cerebral that maybe it was never going to work on film. It was just tailor-made for television. Where the original series was more swashbuckling action adventure. It's easier to do those on film.
And I think
the original. I was going to say the original kind of folded better into the idea of Kirk being the centerpiece of it, whereas with TNG, it felt more like an even ensemble. But then that's why it was so kind of jarring when you got into the movie version, because it was all about Picard each time.
And that was deliberate, because the Next Generation, that was one of the things when Roddenberry and Rick Berman were creating the show, which would differentiate it from classic Trek, was everybody would have, like, every character would have 1 or 2 episodes devoted to them each season, and it was going to be more of an ensemble show. That's the whole idea, where even Captain Picard didn't go on away missions. It was always Commander Riker leading missions. Whereas the original series from the beginning, it was centered around Kirk and Spock, and even in the first season, they were the only 2 actors that got billing in the opening credits, and then later they added DeForest Kelley. But the fact that the movies focused primarily on Kirk and Spock, and everyone else was just a supporting character, as they had always been, that's why it worked. I think another reason it worked is there was a divide of 10 years from the original series to the motion picture, and the motion picture didn't really work, but it hit the ground running finally with The Wrath of Khan in 1982. But something like that with the Next Generation, unless you can have a 4-hour movie, then it's not going to work. And with the only Next Generation movie that I would say is actually good is First Contact, and mainly because it's an action set piece. The other 3, and especially Insurrection in particular, they are drawn out Star Trek episodes. But they have all these little tidbits, especially in Insurrection, where they everybody resorts to their teenage years, which was just laughable. And I don't know, I think the Next Generation might have done better had the movies never happened. And I think it might be remembered a little more fondly as well. Whereas, Deep Space Nine, especially with the way it ended, probably wouldn't have worked on film. Although I would have liked maybe even a mini series that could have expanded on that a little bit further. But Deep Space Nine, its end point, it ended in 1999. Same thing with Voyager. Enterprise had a forced ending on it, and actually a terrible final episode. But the movies, every movie after Star Trek 6 really hasn't worked. Where the 4 generation movies are episodes, and the Kurtzman movies are a separate thing altogether. But we haven't had what I would call a really good Star Trek movie since 1991. So 29 years.
Well, I tell you, look, because you've touched on it there. Like, the thing that made the original movies work for me, from Wrath of Khan onwards, was that you had the trinity of McCoy, Spock, and Kirk, and they each represent kind of opposites. Like, McCoy is the passionate, moralistic one. Spock is the cold, logical, pragmatic one, and Kirk is the one who's kind of balanced in between them. And this is what Wrath of Khan did so perfectly well, is it balances out all 3 of those major characters. They each get their point of view, and Kirk kind of represents the balancing of the 2 of them, the 2 extremes. But this brings into focus for me what's wrong with the new movies, and I mentioned this in my Into Darkness review. Instead of McCoy, who's the passionate moral center of the group, you bring in Uhura instead, because we need to check the diversity quota. We need to have a strong female character in there instead of 3 men. And so you've got this weird triangle of Spock and Uhura are in a relationship for some reason that makes no fucking sense. They're always arguing with each other. Kirk's kind of pushed into the periphery because he's always getting in the way of the 2 of them. And it establishes a dynamic that does not work in the slightest, because they don't complement each other. They drown each other out.
And Carl Urban was completely wasted as McCoy.
Because he's a good McCoy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's that was the one performance. Actually, his performance is one of the only good things. in those three films, or one of the only things in those three films that I actually like. But yeah, and the whole Spock Uhura thing, when they did that, it's just so out of left field, and it's so out of character with the original characters, played by Leonard Nimoy and Nichelle Nichols. And yeah, and you got your point right there. The Kelvin movies completely miss what Star Trek was all about, not so much in what Picard is doing right now, but the fact that it was about this Trinity, and that Trinity just doesn't exist in the Kelvin timeline movies.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Uhura as a character, and it is actually kind of a shame that she didn't get more screen time and more interesting storylines in the movies. But what they're trying to do with her now, with the J.J. Abrams movies, is to shoehorn her into this central position where she doesn't fit in the slightest. It's such a contrived use of the character, and yeah, it's done purely for diversity points. They wanted this woman of color in amongst that group, because otherwise it would have been three white men, and that's just not acceptable. And that's the problem, is that you try to shoehorn in this diversity without having any clue of what you're going to do with it.
And then they bring in Carol Marcus in Into Darkness, which is supposed to be another strong female character, and then end up objectifying her in the trailer. So I
don't object to that.
I don't object to it at all. But
she fills out that bikini very well.
Oh, she does. but it's funny from their thinking, because you can tell why they added her into that movie, and then ended up doing the opposite of what they thought they were trying to do, which I think even 7 years ago or 8 years ago now just shows how clueless these people are.
Yeah, it's surface level, and that's all it comes down to. Phil S says, Drinker, please do a review of Dances with Wolves. It would be a good oldie to get your perspective on. Plus, I love that movie. Yeah, there's some of those westerns of that era. I'm still planning to do a Drinker recommends for Unforgiven, and Dances with Wolves is right up there alongside that. Excellent movies that give you a different perspective on the Wild West, but are still respectful towards the genre. Both of them fantastic movies in their own right, and yeah, I'd love to do a review of them when I get the chance.
I miss the 90s.
Yeah, they were made by people of a different generation, though. Like Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood, that was a guy who's been around in that genre since the 60s. Obviously, Dances with Wolves, you got Kevin Costner, again, like another guy who's old nowadays, and he's been around for 30 years at least. Yeah, you don't get those kind of movies now, and it's such a shame, because they were fantastic films. But yeah, be great to review them, and if there's people out there who haven't seen them, fucking go see them, because they're incredible movies. Oberon says, Eugene Wesley Roddenberry Jr. should have had more respect towards his dad's legacy. Picard is about showing how pathetic males are. You guys rock. Thank you very much. We do rock. Yeah, I don't get quite that vibe from Picard yet. Like that it's all about men are shit and women are amazing. I haven't seen episode 2, so I can't say for sure. But
the first episode wasn't that bad.
Yeah, the only female character you've got isn't really even a woman. It's like some weird android, humans melding, like a cyborg kind of thing. So that doesn't quite count, I don't think.
No, my issues with Picard have nothing to do with gender or men being weak or anything like that. My issues have to do with the fact that it's not well written, and the fact that it contradicts everything that came before. So at least we could say there's something different that we dislike about Picard, but who knows where this is going to head. And I have a feeling this is Kurtzman Trek, so it's probably going to head in that direction anyway. And we do see a little bit of that in episode 2, that one scene in particular.
I think Discovery has gone down that road very much. So, I mean, like, from what I've seen of you guys talking about it, the female characters are very much pushed to the forefront, and the men are all kind of deeply flawed in their own ways, whereas the women are kind of perfect and strong and capable and all the rest of it.
Well, I think Gary, you covered this in some of your videos. If you look at shots in the background, there are shots on the bridge, shots in corridors where there are no white male characters, or in some cases, no male characters to speak of whatsoever. So yeah, it's
Starfleet is a matriarchy.
Yeah,
it is. The big shift in it is they're portraying women as they're still portraying women as powerful. They're all kind of assholes in the second episode, but they're all in positions of power. So that's their big shift towards making this a little more in depth, I guess. But yeah, it's oh my God, the image of the Enterprise at the end of Star Trek Discovery Season 2. I'm sure you even noticed that. I think Spock and Pike were the only men on the bridge.
Yeah, no, that's I think I covered that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. In Star Trek Picard, have we seen any males in positions of power? As I don't think so. Actually, we haven't seen any white males in Starfleet.
No, even Laris or what?
The scientist, yeah.
No, the Romulan servant for Picard, Laris, who's kind of. I mean, I was talking about this with Doomcock. She's kind of hot in a way. Maybe it's the ears. I don't know. Kind of got some.
Yeah, she could. I see where you're going with.
I'm not complaining there at all.
Yeah, she's even large and in charge in the second episode and yells at Picard. He gets yelled at by 4 different women in the
I think so.
Man,
yeah.
See, if I was Picard, I would not be taking that. It's like you are my servant. God damn it! You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me.
Laris yells at him, and Picard just looks sad, and then she stomps off.
Yep.
What a lovely show.
Jabon, the Romulan winemaker. I'm sorry, former secret agent Romulan winemaker.
I do have to ask, actually, what's the point of making wine with actual grapes when you've got replicators? When you could just make it yourself?
Well, that I could see. Well, in the future, actually, in Starfleet, they have synthahol, which is alcohol without alcohol, so you can't actually get drunk. So, but that was the thing in the Next Generation, where in 10 Forward, Guinan would always keep real alcohol under the bar. So that one. Maybe I could see it a little bit where, it's like processed versus non-processed food. You want the real thing.
Is there not an episode where Scotty gets reanimated in the present day and he's like, this tastes like shit. This isn't proper Scotch whiskey.
Oh yeah. Then he goes to the bridge on the holodeck and gets completely loaded. Actually, probably one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Trek.
Yeah. Even though it was like a ridiculous green screen, it's like, oh come on, give us an actual like Enterprise set. Fucking hell.
That was
made
the
out
budget.
Of plywood anyway.
Well, they could only afford, and they had a big budget, which is odd. But yeah, I think it was in Star Trek magazine around the time the episode aired, where they could only afford to make a small portion of the bridge. So it's the captain's chair, the turbo lift, and one console, and everything else was, well, you could tell they were screen clips from the actual episode itself. Star Trek Enterprise actually did a much better job of recreating the bridge.
Okay. Bertie Eve says UK will not be adopt to Article 13 now left EU. Okay, you learned to type English. Good. Article 13 apparently is not going to apply to us now that we've left the EU. So the whole copyright thing, that's good news for people like us, I guess. So
it is. Maybe you guys can see some countries over there have been getting I have a website where I back everything up on, like for podcasts and stuff, and it's blocked in some places because I refused to tick the box that said that I comply to all of your draconian EU laws that I had to, like, I don't know. They were asking me to, it's too many rules and I had to read it. So I didn't sign it. And I
think you're better off not doing that. I don't know about you, but like when I was doing my Doctor Who videos, like I had a hell of a time making them and getting them past the copyright filters.
Oh, I got a copyright strike on my last one right after we talked about that. I was debating on taking it down because all the money's going to the BBC right now. So I got a claim.
Yeah, no, that's why I stopped using live clips, because during Series 11, I used to have my discussion videos with my friend Tony after the fact, and she would always make these 1 or 2 minute edited sort of remixes of the episodes themselves, and it was actually starting with "It Takes You Away." That one got claimed. That one it was blocked worldwide, and that was the last time I've ever used live clips for Doctor Who. So I just switched to screenshots. The BBC is overly temperamental about that. That and my Doctor Who videos are also the hardest to get monetized.
Really, I've
Yeah.
never had a problem with monetization. It's more
Nope.
just like it's either going to get blocked worldwide or it's fine. Like there's nothing in between with the BBC.
Here's the weird thing. I used all the Next Time trailers because I've used the older trailer in the for Spyfall, and no problem. The one that got claimed was the Next Time trailer for the episode I was actually covering. Which, I mean, that's fair use. I can use clips I could go in and use clips from the episode. And if I'm talking about those clips, I can use them. That's the law here in the States. I'm fighting it, but it killed when you get a copyright. So not everybody's in this for dollars, folks. I mean, some people just like to make videos, but you have to have it monetized for it to get traction. And I know YouTube denies this, but it's bull. If you don't have an ad on your video, it's not going to get recommended as much. And so
well, I mean, for me, it's like it's striking that balance of I want to give the people who watch the video the best possible viewing experience they can get. But if it comes at the expense of all my videos get demonetized because they're getting copyright violations, it's like, well, then I can't do anything with it. Like it's not going to work. So I have to strike that balance. Usually it just means pulling trailer content and using really short clips. But fuck, man, if you're making a 20-minute video and you've got to split it up into 5-second segments, that is a lot of editing.
Yep.
And it's a lot of work. But no.
Well, I would say I've been fighting demonetization with at least 50% of my videos since. Oddly enough, I put up a Captain Marvel video last February. My channel's been haywire ever since. But for me, it's an ongoing cycle and for a while it was every video where I publish a video, and even if I've scheduled it, the instant it goes live, the little yellow $ shows up. And every video had to go to review. Every video has been approved for monetization, which is usually 24 to 48 hours later. But all the views, because as you guys would know, when you publish a video, you get the most views within the first few hours. So you end up making nothing off that video, which is why I do this as a hobby, because I make next to nothing, because the only money that I really make off my videos is after they've been approved. And by that point,
don't they monetize it during that dispute process? So once it's approved, whatever was earned during that period will go to you.
Well, the demonetization is different than a copyright claim. A copyright claim, everything goes to the claimant. When a video is demonetized, you still get ads, but they're very few and far between, and they're not high tier ads, and they're not targeted ads either. So just throwing it out here as an example, say you put up a video, say if it's fully monetized, green $, say just for argument's sake, the video makes $100. If you get demonetized during the same period, so you've got the yellow check mark. So when it says limited or no ads, generally it's limited, but instead of $100, you'll get 5 to 10% of what you would have made. So instead of making $100 off that video, you make $5 or $10, which is why I will never experiment with doing this full time again. So that's why for me, it's just back to being a hobby.
Yeah. Well, that kind of sucks. I'll go through a couple more super chats here. Party Civi says bureaucratic evil. Oh, the European Union. Yeah, Brexit's taking effect, so we're out. Don't have to worry about it.
This just popped up real quick. I'm looking at the inside of my channel, and you're going to get a survey from Oxford Economics. It says, on behalf of Google, Oxford Economics is conducting a 50-minute survey of creators to assess the impact you have on the that I have on the economy, society, and culture. Your answers are used pursuant to the Google privacy policy.
Well, I can't wait to fill that one out.
Oh boy.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
50 minutes, eh?
15. So
Oh, okay. Well,
the last survey was 50. It was huge.
Fuck. And is it just entirely based on your own opinions? Like you could, in your own opinion, you reshape the entire policy of the Western world.
Yes.
Okay,
Wow.
cool. Just
Such
say that.
I can tell you, I'm not doing much economically, so I can answer that right now. Socially, I don't know. I trigger a lot of people, so
Yeah. I see myself as one of the great world leaders. Really do. Qui-Gon.
Yeah, my vote.
Yeah. Drinker took your advice and watched 1917. Best 2 hours this year so far. Also, Gary versus Drinker versus Bowlestrek on Witcher. Keep up the great work. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen 17. Absolutely loved it, and I recommended it to as many people as I could. I thought it was a fantastic movie, and really the kind of film that I'd like to see more of, because it's free of politics and it's just characters doing heroic things and being fun.
I'm going to see it
incredible
tomorrow.
people. Yeah,
Tomorrow night.
I might. I'm planning on seeing it, but I might end up waiting for that one to come out on Blu-ray. But yeah, it's on my list. Actually, yeah, your video is the one that recommended it.
Yep,
it's an excellent film. I can't recommend it highly enough. And it's a war that's I guess we never cover much nowadays. Like, it's all about World War II or much more recent conflicts. But World War I is one of those things that's it's horrific when you think about it. It's horrific when you think about the sheer numbers of people that were sacrificed for very little. And if you can shed a bit of light on that, then by all means, go for it.
Well, Canada lost more men per capita than any other country fighting in the war, because we had open conscription. And in Canada, we actually refer to that as the lost generation, because most men did not come back. So yeah, it's very poignant here in Canada. There was actually
Same here.
We've had a few Canadian movies. What was the one that with Passchendaele is one that I'm thinking of that actually I think did a great job of telling the story. That was I think 2009, but that's another one. The acting's a little cheesy, but in terms of the Canadian story of the First World War, it's worth a watch.
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about the lost generation, it's the same here. Like, I can guarantee you, go to any, even the tiniest little town or village anywhere in Britain, and you'll see a war memorial for local guys who died in the First World War. But then you'll see like a plaque for like the guys who died in World War II, and they'll be like 10% the number, like nowhere near as many as died in the first one, because it was a different war, and it was just mass carnage on a scale that you just can't imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think if you got a movie that pays tribute to that, then it gets my vote for sure, and I hope it does well Oscars season. Curtis D donated $2. Thank you very much, sir. Adam McAllister, best of luck this year, Drinker. Love your Witcher vid. Thank you. I that was a fun one to make, and it was a fun show to talk about. Spectre Von Baron, Drinker, you play any video games? Any favorites? Yes, I do. At the moment, I'm still on Modern Warfare, basically because I can dip in and out of that and do a bit of online gaming. But the last one I played that had a decent single player was Metro Exodus, which I thought was really good. It was a game that's had a good, strong story, excellent characters, and it was written by a little studio in Ukraine, and it was well done. I don't know about you guys, whether you play much video games.
I'm an occasional gamer. My favorite gaming genre is racing games, so for me it's the Need for Speed series and Forza. In terms of what I'm playing right now, I've actually been playing, and I don't have much time to play video games at all right now, but I've been playing off and on Jedi Fallen Order for the last few months, and it's actually it's better than what we got with the Rise of Skywalker. It actually has a decent story. So if you're looking for an example of real Star Wars, check out Jedi Fallen Order, and it's by EA. So they actually made a good Star Wars game, and there are no microtransactions.
I have heard good things about that, actually. People have been on at me to play it. So yeah, when I get past Call of Duty, I might give it a go.
There you go. Last game I played all the way through was Red Dead Redemption. So it's been a while.
Well, you went out on a high at least, because that's an excellent game.
Yes.
Red Dead Redemption 2 is equally good.
Yeah, I've been working my way through that one slowly for about the past year. This is what I do. Like I'm the ultimate casual gamer. I have an Xbox One S and the PS4 Slim, so I've got like the poor man's version of both consoles. But yeah, with when I start a game, because I have such little time to actually play, it takes me about a year to get through it. I think I'm almost done Red Dead Redemption 2.
Cool. Yeah,
Cool.
it's got a great ending. I'll say that. LT Netjack, I think it's the production momentum. This stuff started the process maybe 2 years ago, before anyone realized that no one is interested in paying for a political lecture. Too far in to go back. Yeah, I guess you're talking about like the politics in movies and stuff. I've said this before. Yeah, there's obviously a lead time on movies, so the things that we're seeing now might have been started like 2 or 3 years ago, when all of this stuff was still going strong. And now they've kind of starting to cotton on to the fact that no one can be arsed with any of this political lecturing, and it's starting to turn. But like, you're still getting movies that were commissioned way back in the day when Ghostbusters was like all the rage. So yeah, you have to kind of ride it out a little bit. I do believe that eventually they'll get the message. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think they're not blind to the fact that you get woke and you go broke.
Well, as we know, Picard had massive reshoots to the point, and this went right up to the end. I think it was the first 6 episodes. I think most of them ended up having to be reshot, and I don't think we know exactly what was taken out of those episodes. But I tend to think that maybe this show was a lot more political originally than what we're seeing on screen. So I don't know, and it's just a feeling I get. But I think there was a minor course correction with Picard. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to save the show, but I think there is some of that. But then you have Birds of Prey, which is another upcoming disaster. And this would have been commissioned, I would say, or at least it was being shot, as there was a massive rejection of woke politics. So it's hard to say. I think it's almost on a case-by-case basis. But I don't know, Gary, if you'd agree with me on this, but do you think that was part of the reshoots for Picard?
Oh yeah, I think it had everything to do with Star Trek Discovery Season 2. On the surface, they're going to come out and say everything's a success, and we know not to take what they say on face value, just based on what you see on screen. Especially with the second episode too. There's a scene you'll see at Critical Drinker, when there's a scene that's about it's in the first third of the episode, where it's 2 scenes with the same characters in 2 different locations referring to the other scene. So it was clearly supposed to be separated. They decided to connect them, and it's utterly confusing. And it's not how, basic film school, you are not supposed to do what they just did. They broke a major rule, and it's called, oh my God, the mental map. Yeah. And Drinker, you're a writer, so you'll see it and you'll go, what the hell? And it's Laris and Picard talking about going to an apartment, and then it shows them into the apartment talking, and it continues the conversations, and it's like, what the? It's that kind of crap that tells you that they mush 2 things together. I mean,
that scene was so. Oh, go ahead, Drinker.
No, I was just going to say, like, in terms of telling a story like that, you don't tell the audience things that they already know, and 2, you don't like disconnect scenes across different locations and carry on a conversation as if it's linked between the 2. Like, that's just it disconnects your understanding of how people would interact like that, because that's not how conversations play out.
Well, that scene was so awkward. I actually thought my audio was out of sync, because I'd paused it for a second just to go do something right before that scene started. I went back, started it up. I'm like, Jesus Christ, because in Canada, we're stuck watching it on Crave, which is a terrible, glitchy streaming service, probably the worst on the planet. But I got back, I'm like, what the hell? So it's out of sequence, and then they're switching back to the scenes. I think it's one of the most awkwardly shot scenes I've ever seen. Yeah, and you actually have to see it to believe it. That and the terrible CGI shot of Boston is like pre-1993 CGI. So little
bad.
things like that are just laughable.
Matte painting would have been better.
Yep.
Hey, but I do have to. I truly apologize. I wish I could stay, but I had so many time constraints today. I do have to bail. I'm sorry, especially through the
I
chat.
understand, man.
Yeah.
But thank you for having me. I'm glad we found a time to make this work, and it's an honor to be on your channel. I think you are seriously one of the best YouTubers out there, and I can't wait for your next video. And I loved your take on Ford versus Ferrari, which was one of my favorite movies of the year. So, and I'm going to see 1917 based on what you said about it. So.
That's what I like the most, is being able to recommend movies to people and that they enjoy it. It's like great. Like rather than tearing apart shit stuff, it's like I can talk about things that are actually good, and people can get something out of it. So if you get a chance to watch it, I hope you enjoy it.
No,
but thank you.
Well, I second what Gary said as well, because you had actually become one of my favorite YouTube channels. Probably about 2 months before we did our first stream, and I remember when you messaged me on Twitter wanting to do your first live stream with me, and I was completely starstruck. But yeah, I know we're friends in real life, but on the interwebs of life. But yeah, it's it's not biased. You are truly one of my favorite internet channels. As soon as one of your videos comes up, I click on it instantly. And
Thanks,
I would say you have some videos that I know I've watched a dozen times. Your Doctor Who video, the last one, I've watched that at least 10 times. I think even though it's short, I think it's one of the best takes we've seen on it.
Yep. Could not agree more.
Thanks, man. I think sometimes with stuff like this, the best way is just to go full sarcasm and just make fun of it rather than getting angry about it. It's just mockery. Just have a laugh. Yeah. I think that's the approach I take sometimes.
And it's a good approach. And to the chat, thank you. And I will see you guys soon. I'll have you both on my channel very soon as well. I'd like to return the favor. So
no, absolutely. It'd be an honor to appear.
All right. All right, gentlemen, have a good one. And hey, we only have 5 more episodes of Doctor Who left, or 4, thank God. So
goody.
We're almost through it.
Yeah. See you on the flip side.
See you on the flip side. Ciao, everyone.
See you later, mate. Thank you. Cool. Well, it's just you and I, Bowlestrek. So are you okay to stay on for a bit longer? We're just kind of working our way through the super chats.
Yeah, I'll have to go eventually too, but I can do another 20 to 30 minutes. So yeah, I'll be your co-host for the chats.
Okay, cool. I will. I'm going to churn through these like nobody's business. Right. So great writers and creatives talk about who came before and inspired them. Who in the hell inspired Kurtzman and Abrams? It sure wasn't Roddenberry. I think with Abrams, he sees himself as the next Steven Spielberg. I really see shades of Spielberg in what he does and the way he tries to set things up. And I think he would freaking love it if that became his career path. I don't know about you, but that's what I take from him.
Oh, sorry, the drinker. I got a distraction here. Sorry.
No problem. So the question was, great writers and creatives talk about who came before and inspired them. Who inspired Kurtzman and Abrams? It sure wasn't Roddenberry. So my take is that J.J. Abrams was mostly inspired by Steven Spielberg. He dreams of being the next Spielberg, but he doesn't have the talent or the imagination to do it.
No, he thinks he's the next Spielberg. And occasionally he'll come up with a good concept. Like, I'll give him credit. Lost was a great concept in the beginning, but completely fell apart to what we ended up with in that final episode, which 10 years later, I still have no idea what the hell was going on. And I don't think he did either.
Likewise.
But their inspiration is he not only does he want to be the next Steven Spielberg, but he thinks he's the next Steven Spielberg, even though he's had a massive hand in destroying not only Star Wars but Star Trek. So that's quite a feat to destroy 2 of the biggest franchises. And God help us when his DC movies start coming out. So he'll bring down DC too, but they're already doing a pretty good job of that. They got our faith back with Joker, and now they're giving us Birds of Prey. So yay.
Yeah, I can't wait to review that one. You fail upwards in Hollywood. It's great. I think it's all about PR. Michael Higgins says, refreshing take on modern media. Much appreciated. Thank you, sir. Drive-by commenter. One thing learned from these blockbuster films, a better attribute than power is relentlessness. It makes henchmen into scary hordes, weaker heroes into Jackie Chans, and creates memorable villains. Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of is. Like, you want people that are going to keep coming at you no matter what. And I think that applies to antagonists as well as protagonists. You know, it's having tenacity that defines a character, particularly with your hero character. You know, the ability to get up and keep pushing on, no matter what like setbacks they have, what failures they have. It's that determination that that keeps them going, and that's what makes them interesting. And it's you know, things like that are meant to be like kind of a metaphor for the life that we live. You know, we don't always succeed first time around. We have problems, we have failures in life, but it's our ability to keep going and to keep pushing on and trying to succeed that eventually gets us there. That's what it tries to teach us. But modern movies are telling us like, no, well, if you happen to be a certain demographic, you're just amazing and you don't need to try because you'll just succeed first time around. And it's a horrible, horrible message to give people, because if they try to take that out into the real world, they're going to get a rude awakening pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, the hero's journey doesn't exist anymore because it can't exist within the ideological framework in which most modern Hollywood is existing right now. Whereas you have these characters, if you have a character without flaws, Michael Burnham, Ray, whatever, what's the point in watching these movies? You watch them to get a story. Well, there's no story if the character is perfect from the beginning, has no real obstacles. You know they're going to triumph in the end. What's the point? Why would anybody want to watch this? And this is a new phenomenon. And you know, we still have the occasional decent movie that will have actual character development. And this is where it becomes misconstrued, where we're attacking women, we're attacking the gender, we're attacking whatever. No, we're not attacking that. We're attacking the ideology, but also the way stories are structured. You need to give people a reason to be invested in this character. And this is not reflective of real life. And you know, obviously movies are works of fiction, but there has to be something that the audience relates to. Everybody goes through struggles. If you're watching everything fall into place for a character, you get bored. And I think that's one of the main problems. Just for example of the recent Star Wars trilogy, not only is it bad, not only are there problems all over the place, but it's boring as hell. And boring in a different way. To say the prequel trilogy, a lot of people have issues with the politics and they find that kind of dull, but at least there was a character arc for Anakin Skywalker. And the basic story of the prequel trilogy is one that is actually, it's an interesting story. It was just the way it was done was bad.
Yeah, I think this is what pisses me off when people are like, oh, well, you can't criticize Rey for being a Mary Sue because Anakin was a Mary Sue as well, because he was brilliant at everything. I was like, yeah, do you not understand the difference between those characters, though? Like, his abilities and his skill fed into his arrogance and his narcissism, and that ultimately proved to be his downfall.
Yep.
Like, his skill was his flaw. Like, that's what they don't understand. It's like, if you actually take a moment to think about how that character progresses and what he goes through, that's a necessary part of his character. He's got too much too soon and he doesn't know how to cope with it. Rey doesn't have any of those flaws. She doesn't have a downfall. She's just amazing all the time. Like, that's not a good character. That's not a character at all. That's just an idea. This is the problem. But like, you can't tell people that. Like, if you try and explain that to them, they just close themselves off. They're like, nah, you're just racist or you're sexist or whatever it is. Like, you can't have a serious discussion with them about it. So
no, criticism has degenerated into insults. If you can't actually argue against what the person is saying, then that's when the insults come in. It doesn't take much of a stretch to analyze Rey as a character now that we have the 3 movies in. what was the purpose of this whole trip? What was the purpose of this 3-movie arc? There was none. We ended up at the end where we knew we were going to end up at the end. And you compare it to Luke, which in many ways is the opposite journey of Anakin, but this was someone who began in episode 4 as a young, brash, whiny teenager. We saw him struggle in episode 5 to grasp the Force. We have his training with Yoda. Then we have episode 3, which takes place, I believe it's 3 years after episode 5, but I don't think that's ever made clear. But you see the character growth, where if you compare Luke in episode 6 to Luke in episode 4, this is a character that has completely changed. This is a character not to be reckoned with. This is no longer a whiny teenager. This is a Jedi master that you don't want to F with. Or, well, I guess we're swearing. You don't want to fuck with.
Yeah, no, this is what you get. Like you in the first movie, you've got a character with potential, but no real power and no wisdom. In the second one, you've got a character with power, but no wisdom. And in the third one, he's got power and wisdom. Yep. That's how he progresses. He learns each thing, each step along the way. And he has downfalls and stuff along the way. And that's what causes him to learn. But then you don't get that with Rey. And it ties back into what I said earlier about how they're afraid to write characters or female characters that get tested and that fail, because you can't have them fail. You're not allowed to. So you end up with shitty characters that are not interesting.
And then even that, by the time episode 9 came around, when they tried to give her obstacles, it was badly implemented, but it wasn't believable. Like that 2-minute scene where she goes to Luke's isolation planet and questions things for literally 2 minutes. So that's the only doubt she had. And then obviously 30 minutes later, she's suddenly all the Jedi.
Yeah.
So by that point, like there was nothing they could do with that character by the time episode 9 came around. It was already ruined by episode 8. Well, they might have been able to salvage it going into episode 8 if somebody who knew what the hell they were doing wrote that script. But instead, we had Rian Johnson. And in terms of character development, there is nothing. There is no way you could have salvaged that franchise. My own curiosity with episode 9 was not in seeing how they were going to fix this, because they couldn't. I was more interested in seeing how they were going to try and definitely fail to fix this. And it all comes down to character. And the sooner they realize this, the better. And it's the same thing with Michael Burnham. She is like Rey, a completely flawless character. Or somebody like Captain Marvel. How many real obstacles did Carol Danvers have to overcome in that movie? We have flashback scenes of the patriarchy, say something that most people would go through, but at any point in that movie, did you question that Captain Marvel was going to be victorious at the end? No, you didn't, because again, no character development. The character is perfect from the beginning.
Yeah, her only struggle really was like, how do I decide where to direct my awesome power? Am I serving the right cause with what I'm doing?
Yeah.
But it's never a question of, is my power enough? And that's the problem. So yeah, shitty movie, and I'm sure the second one's just going to be just as bad. Yeah, Orville Nation says, very messy clusterfuck. They have screwed things up so much. For example, so many people think Vulcan has been destroyed in the Prime universe. Yeah, this is where it starts to bleed into each other, where they're not sure what's relevant to the Prime universe, which one's Kelvin. This is why I fucking hate what they've done with Star Trek, having these alternate realities. It was a terrible idea, and it's really causing even more problems now that they've got TV shows based around it.
Yeah, well, that's a problem. That's one of the many problems with Picard. You can't even really tell which of the two universes this is supposed to take place in. And yeah, that is the question, because in the Kelvin timeline, Vulcan has been destroyed. Does Vulcan even exist in this franchise or in this series? And if it has been destroyed, then this is not the next generation, which honestly I prefer that because I don't really want this to be related to it. But they've dug themselves into a hole, and you have J.J. Abrams to thank for this, because Paramount and CBS are under the same umbrella again. The Star Trek rights are under one umbrella again, but there's the hangover from this sub-license, which I don't know when it expires. I don't think it actually has an expiry date. I think it depends. It's like your typical licensing deal where you have to do something within a specific period of time. So I think we're in a situation where as long as Star Trek is on the air or making movies, then we're stuck with this parallel timeline, and we may never get real Star Trek back.
Yeah. I can only hope that they fail, basically. Hernandez Aredes says, member berries, fan service, and retconning. If that's how these are spelled, how do you guys define these terms? So from my understanding, member berries is just shameless playing on nostalgia without any real context or substance behind it. Fan service is just giving people, it's a bit like member berries, really. Things that fans have always wanted to happen, like, say, getting Han, Luke, and Leia back together on screen in the new Star Wars movies. If they'd done that, that would be an example of fan service. It might not have been relevant to the story, but it's something that everyone wanted to see. And retconning is when you go back and retroactively change things that happened in the past. And that's literally just rewriting history to suit what you're doing now. And it's generally defined as a bad thing. Bowlestrek, if I've missed something there, let me know. That's my understanding.
Yeah, I would say member berries. I would put that under as well manipulation, where you are playing with the audience. Fan service, it can be good or bad fan service, but fan service it's not really manipulation, but it's like what you said. It's giving the audience what they want to see, and I think as long as it's done properly, there's nothing wrong with fan service. And then retconning is, well, what we've seen with Star Wars and what we've seen with Doctor Who, rewriting the past. And in the case of current year, rewriting the past for current year ideological aims.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty shit, really. Steve Morris says, at the start of episode 2, the replicator is straight up a 3D printer inside a microwave. Why is tech gone backwards? No idea.
I did notice that, actually.
Probably because they've got access to like better rendering technology to like show things being created inside a replicator. Like in the past, it was just like, they would just fade an object into existence that already had been made. Whereas now you get to see how it gets constructed, and it's like, it seems
it is backwards. Well, if you look at the original replicator on the original series, you didn't actually see what was being replicated because they could do it so a door would open and it's magically there. The technology in the next generation seems to be a lot more advanced than the technology that we're seeing in Picard. But then it's these little inconsistencies are all over the place. And just the news program, when we learn at the end of season 1 that TV is a thing that no longer exists. So, and Star Trek fans, and I wouldn't say I'm the most obsessive Star Trek fans, but Star Trek fans know their Star Trek canon. So if you're half-assing it, which is what they're doing here, Star Trek fandom is going to catch on to it. And to me, it just comes down to laziness.
Yep. Repurposing it to kind of fit what they're doing now and not really caring whether it conflicts with what they've already done. Aged Boomer says, what's with the Starfleet officers using the F-bomb now? No fucking idea. It seems logical that they would still have the swear words in the 24th century. So, I mean, it doesn't seem outside the realms of possibility, but it's just so jarring when it's never been used in The Next Generation or any of the TV shows or movies, really. So, I don't see the need to include it. It's obviously just done now to be edgy.
Well, I've always gotten the impression that, we know language changes over time, but there's also the scene in Star Trek 4 where Spock is wondering what's going on, and Kirk says back in the 20th century they use colorful metaphors. So it gives you an idea that maybe, and again, you're looking at three centuries back then, 4 now, of the English language progressing. So I would say it's not out of the realm of possibility that maybe, because the whole idea is that humanity has evolved, so maybe we weren't using those terms anymore. But and you'll see it when you look at the episode. The inclusion is just, it's so jarring and out of place. And, I have no fucking problem with fucking swearing. I've done it many times in my fucking life. But, but you cringe at the way it's included. And it's the same thing in Generations, where they had Data saying, "Oh shit," because they could throw it in there. Yeah, well, it was a funny line, and the whole theater cheered when I saw it. But again, does it really? And well, Picard says, or no, what's her face? Grace says bullshit in First Contact, but again, that's 21st century. But yeah, it's just one of those things that was included for shock value. Or using the term "dude." Is that still going to be relevant in the 24th century?
Yeah, that was jarring. That was just like, that's present day dialogue just shoehorned in.
Oh, you got your chat has been taken over by one of, this is a troll I've had a few times.
Okay, yeah, I'll get this.
This usually happens at the 2-hour mark to every stream I do, and it's the same people.
Yeah, that's fine. I've got them out. There's another one. What lovely people.
Oh, yeah. No, these are... I think my fan club has just joined the chat.
I think I've got it now. So there was only 2 of them, really.
Oh, no. We're back again.
Brilliant. Oh, wow. It's still going.
Actually, Chris Persia, are you in the stream? If you are, make yourself known. We can see if we can get a moderator just to clear this up.
I think that should be it.
We're getting Trump tweets now.
Yeah, okay. Apologies, chat. We're just filtering out the silly people here.
So how's everybody doing today? I've had an interesting day. Yeah, I'm just... should I sing a song? No, I can't sing. Somebody tell me to do something. Well, drinkers... yeah, somebody in there said a name. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know who that was. This is hilarious. Oh, yes, it is. I'm just trying to see these as they go. Fantastic. Yes, sing. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. That's all you're getting. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Something, something. That's it. Okay, there you go. So you had me kind of sing. I think you need mods. Well, yeah. What year is it? I don't know. It's 2020, yo. Somebody asked what happened to the woke Batman videos. Well, now we're at 5-year-old insults. Well, here's what's going on with the Batwoman videos. I will be making the occasional video. I'm going to, at some point, maybe next week, if I can fit it in, make a video for the rather ridiculous 10th episode. But unfortunately, I can't do them every week anymore. Mainly because I'm working 2 jobs, and it actually takes me 12 hours to put together every woke Batman video. So I've kind of had to sort of retire those, but you will be getting, I might do maybe every 4th or 5th episode, any episode that is, oh my God, that is disgusting. But yeah, every, but yeah,
I'm tempted to keep that one. That's actually quite good.
But yeah, so that's the answer to the people that have been asking about woke Batman. I will be doing the occasional episode, but it's only going to be episodes that are completely over the top and ridiculous. But yeah, I've had to retire the weekly videos. So sorry about that, folks, but woke Batman is not dead. Woke Batman will still be a staple for a while. So look forward to, unless something happens, I will get a video out next week. And I think we've killed them off, so I will stop hijacking the stream to talk about woke Batman.
Thank you for filling in me there. For filling in for me. Sorry, that could have been misconstrued. Drinker, you sexy beast! Have you heard of the rumors that they're going to use the Mandalorian season 2 to explain Palpatine's return in Fall of Skywalker? I think they already did that in Jedi Fallen Order, if I'm not mistaken. Does he not make an appearance in that? And that kind of explains how he's back to life. You might know better than me because I haven't watched it. Sorry.
I don't know. I think the Mandalorian might steer clear of that. I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are aware that Episode 9 has not gone over very well. I think they're going to sidestep that completely. So I think they're going to focus on the story of the Mandalorian. And to be honest, I think it's best that at this point, that whole arc is such a mess that they just leave it and do their own thing.
Yeah, no, very much agreed. Just stay the fuck away from that. Tell the Mandalorian story. That's all we care about, and it's quite good. So, yeah.
Oh, here's one here that I wondered. Somebody said, check out Lighthouse, please. Yes, actually, Drinker, have you seen Lighthouse or the Lighthouse?
No, people keep telling me to see it, and
it sold me on Robert Pattinson as an actor. It's actually probably one of the best, if not the best movie I've seen in the past year. That's actually that might be a subject for a Drinker Recommends video. But okay. Yeah, watch The Lighthouse. It is actually, it will blow you away. And it does give you some faith that, you know, this movie, it only made like 14 million, but the budget was 4 million. So it does give and it's all black and white, 4x3 letterbox shot on film. It's the same director that directed The Witch, which people are torn on, but I actually like that movie. But it does give you hope that, you know, these little gems still come out, but it is a good movie. And kind of like the Joker, it leaves you guessing, so you're not entirely sure even at the end what's going on. But yeah, so anybody who's watching this, if you haven't seen The Lighthouse, it's worth it.
Yeah, I'll give that a chance.
Says, yeah, it's the best movie they've seen in the past 10 years. Yeah, and I just saw it on sale at Walmart. It was on the new release shelf. I think it was $20, which is lower than usual. So I picked it up and I've actually watched it twice, and the movie absolutely blew me away.
Cool. Why the fuck is everyone in chat going on about Blake 7? Everyone saying I need to review Blake 7. What is it with Blake 7? God damn it!
I still haven't watched it. I will watch it at some point.
It's good. I sort of remember watching reruns of it when I was a kid. It was a pretty decent sci-fi show, and then everyone died at the end. That's all I can tell you about it at the moment. Drinker 7. Yeah, okay. Oh, fucking hell. I'll review it. Jesus Christ. Right. Trek is not a property to change 25%. People have memorized the full layout of the Enterprise. They can tell a toilet is out of place. Yeah, they know these things. That you've got a dedicated fan base, and you know, really up until recently, I think Trek was pretty solid with its continuity and its world building and stuff. And it's only since the Kelvin universe has sprung into being that they've just gone, nah, fuck it, we can just do whatever we want now.
No, and they have, like, they're with the original series, and it's the same thing with any long running property. It's the same thing with Doctor Who. You kind of grow into the canon. So if you look at some things from the original series, there are some minor inconsistencies, but from 1966 up until 2005, with obviously the odd exception, they've been pretty accurate with canon. And then I think Star Trek as a franchise has gone from an example of something that was very respectful and adhered to canon to something that has just completely thrown it out the window.
Yeah. Yeah. And now it's just like, yeah, there's nothing to kind of buy into because anything could change at any moment. So that's, yeah, shit. Bogue says, call Alex Kurtzman what he is, a fucking hack. Okay, fine. Alex Kurtzman's a fucking hack.
I don't think anyone would. I don't even think I'd give him that much credit. See, he's worse than Rian Johnson because at least Rian Johnson, what he directs looks pretty. So at least we can give him that. Everything that Alex Kurtzman has involved himself in is complete shit. Even the he was co-writer on the first movie, but actually his co-writer, who's long since been excommunicated from Star Trek fandom, Robert Orci, actually was the real Star Trek fan. But he's given us The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which went over wonderfully. No, he's given us The Mummy, which was supposed to be the new Universal monster universe, which it consists of The Mummy, and that's it. So yeah, Alex Kurtzman is below being a hack. I don't think anybody can fully understand how this idiot even has a job.
Yeah, you fail upwards sometimes in Hollywood. I guess sometimes it's just who you know rather than
Yep.
what you know. Someone in the chat's just like, Kate Winslet is so hot. Yeah, okay.
Younger Kate Winslet, maybe. I don't know.
I never really felt it with her. I don't know. She just wasn't quite my type.
Yeah.
Right. Disney trilogy is non-canon. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I've already decided that.
Yeah, once you divorce yourself from it, then you don't get mad about it anymore. You just go, what shit. Q was right about humans. Nice going, Picard. Yeah. This is what I referenced in my video, actually, when I reviewed Picard. It was like the last scene with Q in All Good Things, where he's talking to Picard about how the trial never ends, and we wanted to make sure that you could expand your view of the universe and your horizons.
Well, then where is Q? He needs to come back.
Yeah, because now it's just gone insular, and it's like, yeah, humans are just really limited and concerned with like bickering and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's the opposite of what Trek was supposed to tell us. 6 turning 4 burning. Hated rogue Starfleet admirals trying to stir up conflict storylines. Starfleet would weed out those who didn't accept Federation ideals. They most probably would. You'd like to think so anyway. If it was someone who was bigoted against a particular species or whatever, you kind of think, how the fuck would they rise to the rank of admiral?
Yep.
That would have got spotted.
Well, that and the Admiral in episode 2 is she's older, so by Star Trek terms, she looks older than Picard. So one would think, I don't know, saying just by Star Trek age groups, the Admiral is probably 100. So, well, no, it's if you look at it, it makes sense. You know, if you look at how human longevity changes over time, Picard is supposed to be 97. She's obviously older. So let's just say, back when the universe was the way we knew it, she would have been about 80, probably an admiral. So would not somebody have noticed that they had this bigot working or as an admiral for, well, probably decades? No. But yeah, it's and you have to watch the episode. As soon as you see that scene, you'll see the whole legacy of Star Trek destroyed in 60 seconds.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, the Hammond Studios, the sky's the limit. Also, no one's ever really gone. Yeah, that's one of the dumbest lines ever from Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Big Dave K. Hey, a drinker. What do you think about the movie Dread? I really liked it. I'd like to see a sequel. Actually, I think Carl Urban was a pretty good Dread, and it was well shot. So much better than the Stallone movies. That's for fucking sure.
Oh, somebody here asked, is it Admiral Nechayev? No, I actually looked into that. It isn't. It's a different admiral altogether.
Oh, okay. Justin Stahl donated $4. Thanks, man. Hammond Studios again. I feel Deep Space Nine is getting the prequel treatment. It's fine, but getting more love thanks to the mishandling of future stories. Still love it. Nerdrotic Mauler asked, favorite Buffy episode season. Shit. Gary's not here to answer that one, so can't say.
My favorite Buffy season is the first season, and my favorite episode would be any episode from that season. My least favorite Buffy season is the 6th, and the musical episode specifically.
Oh, yeah. What's the one where Angel turns evil?
That is season 2.
Right, okay. Yeah, that could potentially be mine, I think. That's the one that sticks in my head. Derp says, Critical Drinker, what do you look for in a movie show in order to decide whether you like it? Are you more about storyline or tone? I don't think there's anything specific for me. Like, there's not one specific thing that I have to have in a show. It depends on a whole bunch of factors. Like, you might have amazing actors, you might have great characters, it could be a great storyline, it could be amazing world building. It's different for each show, but like, there's just something about them sometimes that will grab you. And I think I try to separate that feeling I get of just being interested in a show with like what I look for as a critic, because you try to be a little bit more objective when you're actually looking at the merits of a movie. This is a discussion I got into with Mahler once, actually, where I was reluctantly forced to concede that the first Spider-Man movie for Marvel was actually a good film, even though I didn't particularly like it. But I had to recognize that it was well put together.
So we're talking the first MCU movie, Homecoming?
Yes, yeah. I didn't particularly love it, but it was a well-constructed movie that's it referenced loads of other films within the MCU, and it actually told a pretty tight, well-contained plot, even though I didn't care for it on that kind of emotional level. But I was like, yeah, there's not much to criticize here, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it's I don't hate the two Spider-Man movies. I think it's maybe for me it was harder to connect with the character because Spider-Man is now so young with Tom Holland that I think just if you're older, it's harder to connect to. I wouldn't rank it in the top half, either of them in the top half of MCU movies, but they're no Captain Marvel. They're enjoyable, they're watchable. But I find them both to be easily forgettable as well. So I'm kind of, I guess, sort of in the middle there.
Yeah, yeah. Vijay says, my guess on the opening of episode 1, I guess this is Star Trek Picard, is they weren't even sure they'd have that shot of the Enterprise D. That's why the set of 10 forward is so generic. Yeah, I agree. They had to play it safe there. I'm glad they got that shot of the external of the ship because it looked really cool.
Yeah, no, the Enterprise looked good, but yeah, 10 forward, and that's one of the things that bugged me right off the bat, because you could tell it's not even an actual set; it's a CGI set, and and you could tell the proportions are wrong. And again, 25% rule.
Yeah, I in my review I played it against a clip in 10 forward from TNG, and wow, you can see the difference. Like it's a different place.
Smaller. Yeah, it's smaller. The color's different. Although they did use the TNG uniforms for that flashback painting scene. So it's almost like half of it is real, half of it isn't.
Yeah. But did you notice that like they never show the uniforms in their entirety? It's always like they're turned away, or you get them from the shoulders up. And I honestly think that's how they got around it.
That's
like
true. If
you'd had a full-length thing of Picard stood there in his uniform, they would have got nailed because it's using the whole thing. Well, that's just my take.
No, actually, that makes sense now that I'm thinking of it, because there is one shot where they have Picard wearing the uniform from season 3 to season 7 of The Next Generation, and they're just shooting him from the top, but he actually really did look like just a slightly older Picard in that scene. But yeah, no, Data has his back turned when they're coming up. So yeah, you don't get one full shot of the uniform. So they had to cut out 25%. God damn it.
We're on to you guys. You're not getting past us. Deaf Squirrel says you guys do a better crossover than the CW. Yeah, that's not hard, to be fair. Avaloch says, happy Brexit Day. Enjoy the salt, boys. Yeah, I'm going on Twitter after this. It's going to be amazing. RA, as an Arab who doesn't care for Doctor Who, my point of view on it is this: people who love these properties better stop saying I have no problem with changing the Doctor's race and gender, or it'll get 100% way worse. I think I guess that's the issue, though. It's like I don't have a problem with doing any of those things if it's well written, and probably Bowlestrek, you feel the same way. But when it's badly written and it's done at the same time, those two things combined just like make it seem clunky and really obvious and ham-fisted. Fucking hell, can't get my words out.
It's okay. It's that kind of day. Well, I guess it's like, what time is it? It's past 1 a.m. your time.
Yeah, I'm struggling to see the screen, honestly.
It's just a little after 8 o'clock here.
Oh God! Right? Yeah, I'm getting through these super chats and then I'm bailing. But I'm dedicated, so I'm going to give them the answers they deserve. Redline Fiction, are you Dune fans? Expectations for the 2020 film? Yeah, I like the Dune universe. I've read the books. I've seen the movie back in the 80s and the miniseries, and I quite enjoyed them. I've no expectations for the film whatsoever, so no idea what to expect.
No, I like the I think it was 84, 85 film. But it's one of the, and I somewhat sort of like the later reboot that came out. I think it was 98, 99. But yeah, it's I like the movie, but I'm not a massive Dune fan, so I'll watch it and take it for what it is.
Scottish Nerd says you should have used genetic Jenny to turn the Doctor female. I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah.
You're proud to drink Mexican piss water. I wouldn't say I was proud to drink it. I would just say I have consumed Corona in my life, and it does the job. But I'm more of a Peroni man, if I'm honest. It's better.
I like Corona back when I used to drink, so yeah, it's not great, but it's better than the budget Canadian swill we have that actually does taste like piss.
Yeah. 6 turning 4 burning. Drinker's blood is 50% alcohol. He's immune. You'd be surprised. Yeah. I don't like naked flames near me. Put it that way.
Yeah, I believe you were near death the last time we started our stream because of the morning your time, and you'd had some Gallivants the night before.
Yeah, I was hungover to fuck, man. Honestly, that was a bad night. I know. Honestly, by the end, I was like, I can't even summon up much enthusiasm. I'm like, I just want to go to bed now. I've slept like 4 hours in the past like 2 days. But anyway, it's all right tonight. RA says it's mental how heavily censored the chat is for Euros. Well, I don't know. Do you actually miss out on a lot of the chat that's going on here? I can't say. Maybe it's that Article 13 kicking in. Ruba the Hutt says next Doctor will be trans. Quite possibly. Maybe the Doctor's trans already. You just don't know. Don't assume her gender.
Yeah. There's a certain masculinity about Dr. Nasty, so it's always possible.
Yeah. You know what it never played up to, right? And I don't know if this is something I've missed, but like honestly, if I'd been a man for the past like 1,000 years and then I suddenly got transplanted into a woman's body, I would find that quite a novelty.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Like, I'm sure. I'm sure many people have considered that. So yeah, I could see where you're going with that. Yeah, but no, that's harassing yourself.
For Farscape did that actually when they body swapped, and they did it brilliantly. Like they just went straight for it. It's like, yep, they all kind of go off like in their separate directions. Like, I need to have some alone time right now. Grant Rennie says, hello, drinker, up late with Brexit. Yeah, I think everyone was, but we marked the moment, so we took a moment to appreciate it. I honestly need to get on Twitter and see what they're saying. Woke Troll says, Bowlestrek, thank you for reviewing Woke Batman. Gary said he was going to review every episode, then started whining like a millennial about being boring to watch. So yeah, you've gotten through all of it apparently.
Well, no, I got through the first 9 episodes, and while you were dealing with lovely things in the chat, I would say, yeah, I reviewed every episode up until episode 10. I'm going to review the episode with the kind of ridiculous statements. The second to most recent episode, I'm going to try and see if I can get that done this week, and I might review every 4th or 5th episode. But Gary and I, we kind of split off, whereas I did Woke Batman and Gary ended up doing The Watchmen. So you ended up getting both covered.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like I was neither direction really. I was like, I did the odd episode here and there, and I was like, I can't do this.
I can only take so many terrible shows at a time.
Yeah. The thing is, when I do a review of an episode, like I kind of use it as a way to make a larger point about the show. But then when I've run out of points to make about it, I'm like, oh, all I can talk about is that specific episode and nothing else then. And it just feels like, I don't know, like I can't do that much with the video.
Yeah. Well, no, with the last video, if you look at my review of last week's episode, my review of the actual episode is about 60 seconds. Most of it was focused on what happens at the end, but it's and when you look at an episode like that, what happens overshot the conclusion, which is the complete and total destruction of Doctor Who canon. Everything that comes before it is pretty much irrelevant.
Yeah. Yeah, privacy seeker in the chat. He was just saying, "I remember that Farscape episode." Yes, we all do, sir.
Oh yes.
I was a fan of Claudia Black back in the day. I still would, actually, if I met her. Claudia, if you're watching this, hit me up, man. I'm here. Right. Orville, the show, the only way to save it. Yeah. It's the Star Trek we never got.
Yeah, it is Star Trek. The only thing that I dislike about the Orville is they won't give us a Blu-ray release. Other than that, it's about as close to real Star Trek as we're ever going to get.
Dr. Ruth is a retelling of the other story, rewriting the Pythias, a matriarch culture pre-Hartnell who was placed in the loom to be born. Fuck, I don't understand any of that. Maybe that means more to you.
It's yeah, I kind of understood part of that, but it's yeah. Well, so the
Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, we'll go over it again and see if I can decipher it.
All right, I'll go slower. Dr. Ruth is a retelling of the other story, rewriting the Pythias, a matriarch culture pre-Hartnell who was placed in the loom to be born.
Oh, so yeah, we're talking. Which was there's a missing episode, or God, Galaxy 4, which I think there's one existing episode, but the rest of them have been lost. I don't know if that was a matriarchal society, so I don't know. Maybe that's where the Doctor's coming from.
Okay. Ruba the Hutt says Ryan Johnson will be the next Doctor Who showrunner. Honestly, I don't think he could do a worse job than Chris Chibnall. At least he would have ideas. They wouldn't be good, but something. The talents of Wayne Chiang. If Jodie was the upgrade, is Jo the patch? I honestly think they need to roll back to the previous version with Jodie. She's got too many bugs. I don't think you can fix her.
Yeah, no, I think we're a few hours ago in the tweets, but yeah, that makes sense. Oh, and our friend is back.
All right, I'll deal with that. What have we got here? Okay.
Actually, if you want, I'll make a post. You can right click and make me a mod while you're doing the chat, and I can clear this out. I'll just say hello, everyone. Can't even type. There we go. Okay, I'm in there.
Yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, there you are.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Okay, so yeah, when our friend comes back, I'll just clear them out so people don't have to listen to any more of my stories.
Cool. Right, I'll churn through a few more of these. Sir Patrick voiced a piece of shit in the Emoji Movie. He got too deep with the method.
Oh my god, that's true.
Oh, that was good. Yeah. If you spew too much shit, then that's what you end up as. Brilliant. Fixie Clary, awesome stream. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. TR French. Saw the BBC laid off 350 in the news division. Is BBC going away and Doctor Who suffers from restricted budgets? I actually think it was 450, not 350. It is just in the news division, so I don't know if it'll impact their fiction arm. But yeah, maybe it's a sign that people are losing interest. I mean, ultimately, they've got the license fee. I don't know how much longer that's going to keep going. I've heard rumblings from people like Boris Johnson that they would consider scrapping the license fee. And yeah, I'm all for it at this point because the shit they're churning out is just unacceptable. So yeah, deal with it. Scrap the license fee, let the BBC deal with being a competitive entity, and then we'll see how far they get with this stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, on you go.
Oh, no, I was going to say, well, if I know that people are canceling their license fees, they're just not paying it in protest with what's been going on because their news division is a goddamn woke fest too. So yeah, if they're not getting the license fee dollars, then that's what they depend on. Just all I can say is, oh, our friend's back. But yeah, hopefully I don't know. Hopefully they get privatized and this stuff comes to an end. And I'll have some fun here with your.
Nice, thank you very much. Regarding the negativity that you guys get on Twitter, if women aren't bitching in your replies, you're doing something wrong. I don't think it's women, to be honest. It's just assholes in general. If people have a beef with you on Twitter, whatever. Most of them have got like 5 followers or something. They're not even worth replying to. I'm usually oblivious to it anyway. So I don't know about you, Bowlestrek, but like I come in most days, like my Twitter notifications are maxed out, so I see like 2% of what people actually write about me. So
yeah, it's although today, there was more than the usual amount, but yeah, generally Twitter is it's a cesspit.
Yeah. Samantha Diggs says Corona's too expensive. My offie salt market. Honestly, go for Innocent Gun. It's a fantastic beer that's made in Edinburgh, and it'll get you fucked up, and it tastes good at the same time. So it's definitely my favorite. Tom's Hayden says, "Keep you the fights. Have a drink on me." Thank you, man. I appreciate it. What's next? I had to refresh that one actually. Oh fucking hell! There's been loads come through.
You know, I feel bad for these trolls. Like, literally, dude, you have nothing better to do with your time.
Yeah, Rube the Hutt. Joanna Lumley was the real first female Doctor. I met her once actually when I was down at the head offices of Sky down in Austerley, and she was in the same waiting room as me, and I got chatting to her, and she was really nice. So that's the best I can say about that. But was she actually in Doctor Who?
No, but she was in Sapphire and Steel, which,
Okay.
if you're a Doctor Who fan, it's different. There's nothing else like it, but it's worth watching. It's like late 70s Doctor Who, except it's one of those shows where you don't quite know what's going on, but it's fun to watch.
Cool. Stan Lee asked me, actually, are you a Brewdog fan? Yeah, Brewdog will do just fine. I like Paolozzi as well. I went to their brewery a couple of months back, and it's like kind of a small brewery on the outskirts of Edinburgh, but it's fucking amazing the amount of work that they put in. I recommend their beer wholeheartedly. 52 movies a year says, I found Midnight's Edge, Critical Drinker, and Nerdrotic after Dark Fate. It's relieving to see I'm not the only one disappointed with the woeful destruction of franchises. Yeah, everyone's picking up on it. And, the more people that call it out, the more people will take note and perhaps not go and see the movies. And then they fail. And then ultimately the studios have to take notice. So little by little, like all of us are perhaps helping in our own little ways to sway things, so it's good to be able to do that. So hopefully we can help. McPloud donated $5. Thanks, man. R Par says, Star TP, let the past die, kill it if you have to. Yeah. Or just respect it, rather than killing it, just respect the past. All right, if anyone's really wondering, the corporate apologism really took off after Occupy Wall Street when the progressive stack was first deployed in a big way. Yeah, could well be. I wasn't very aware when Occupy Wall Street was going on, so I don't know the kind of ins and outs of it. I just know like the impact that these things have had on the entertainment industry, and I kind of noticed it after about 2015.
Yeah, no, that was 2011.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a while back now. Fruit Loop says, the drinker and Nerdrotic in one stream. It's not even my birthday. Although we don't always agree, I love and respect your content. Well, that's what we ask for, man. Like, none of us always have to agree 100% with each other, but if we can have a civilized discussion and have a bit of a laugh at the same time, that's all you're looking for. That should be enough. Riff Magos, the Critical Drinkers Grog Fund. Hello, Gary. Thank you very much. You're slowly killing my liver. I love it. Brett Corco, keep fighting the good fight, drinker. Have a drink on me. Cheers from Reno, Nevada. Cheers to you, sir. I appreciate that. Thunderhead, help, I got caught up in my own zipper again. We've all been there, to be honest. The best thing is just don't put your zipper up in the first place and let it all hang out. Then you don't have to worry. DJM Voices, Drinker nailed it. Great thing about the Borg was that they were simplistic yet beyond you. Today's subversion-focused storytelling can only ruin something like that. Yeah, absolutely. I loved the idea that there was an unknown element to the Borg, and you understood the basics of how they were organized, but you didn't know how they came to be or anything like that. That's what made them interesting, the mystique and the alienness of them. And the more you go into the details, the more you humanize them, and the less interesting they become. The Master, Drinker, have you ever had an Applejack? It's one shot of Crown Apple plus one shot of Jack Daniels, aka Applejack. Crisp taste of the Crown plus all the kick of the Jack.
I have had that back in my drinking days. It was awesome.
It's weird. I feel like I've had it, but it was called something different over here. I don't know. But yeah, it sounds familiar. I've had most like cocktails or shots or shooters that you can get with Jack. So yeah, probably had it at some point. Edward Moreno, the Sam Neill scream is hilarious. I want Sam Neill screaming in sheer terror in face of incomprehensible horror. That's the way I view Watchmen. Yeah. It's not even terror for me. It's just like shaking my head in complete exasperation. Like, this is what you're doing, really? Scribe of Rhapsody, how do you guys praise Logan with its woke move of replacing the white male leads with non-white female child? Not mention the character butchering. I think I see Logan as more of a dignified bow out for a beloved character rather than replacing him. I didn't get the feeling that like they were setting up this new character to get her own trilogy or anything like that. It was a story of a man facing the end of his life, you know, and it doesn't get much more universal than that. And played by a guy who's been doing that role for like the past 20 years. Yeah, I would praise it because it had a good story told well with great performances and great actors. That would be me anyway. I think it's fine to move on from one generation to the next as long as it's done respectfully. So,
yep, I concur.
Nebraska, because Halo, thoughts, feelings, rumors about the new Dune. Late chat if you already hit this subject. Yeah, I think we kind of covered it. We don't know too much about the new Dune, but probably both of us are willing to give it a go. And that's all I can say, really. Matt G, could the new Doctor be this Valeyard from the 80s? Valeyard? I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, sorry, and I'm just our friend is back. I'm just kind of clearing him out here.
Oh, cool, man.
Okay, I think I've nuked him. Oh, he'll be back in a minute.
Oh, no. Yeah, I got it. Nice one. Yeah, he's active. Yeah, I'll try and finish off these chats, and then that'll do, I think. Daily reminder that Goodfellas lost Best Director and Best Picture to Dances with Wolves and the Best Screenplay to fucking Ghost. I'd forgotten about that. Shit, man. Christ. Yeah, it's not just today that the Oscars were fucked up. Grip, I'm just so happy to hear the three of you together. I hope this is just the beginning of many more live streams. Oh, thanks, man. I'm sure we'll do others together.
Oh, yeah, we've done, what is it, 6, 7 now? Something like that.
Yeah, quite a few, yeah. RA, let's give control over stories about male heroes to a bunch of used up rich women with daddy issues. That's a good idea. Every studio right now. Yeah. Fuck. Pretty much summed it up right there. Mr. Montage donated £1. Thanks, man. Jacob Babcock, the first drinker was a diverse female character. The current drinker just doesn't remember. Retconned. Yeah, that's it. I'm starting to have memories of a different incarnation of me. It was just, yeah.
Was it last night?
Yeah, this white male version of me just like took over and whitewashed everything. I hate him. But there's a stunning and brave woman inside me trying to fight their way out. I'll get there.
Stop oppressing it.
Yeah, dude. Exactly. Fucking patriarchy inside me. Samantha Dega, Mud Brawler wants a pissing contest. Bid higher. Okay. Yep. Blackheart B donated $2. Thanks, man. Road to Perdition and Miller's Crossing reviews, please. If I had time. Bowlestrek, can you do those? I've got too many other reviews to do.
Which one? Oh, yeah. And a question there about the Valeyard. Was it? Yes, it was an evil version of the Doctor from the Sixth Doctor's era,
Okay.
specifically Trial of a Time Lord. Yeah. So, sorry. What am I reviewing again?
I want you to do Road to Perdition and Miller's Crossing, please, because I don't have time to do them. So
I could do that. I haven't watched Road to Perdition in probably 20 years. I remember liking it.
Yeah, it was. I only watched it once, I think, but it was a decent movie. Paul Newman's last one, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Drinker and Nerd, big fan here. Would you love a World War I movie told from a German perspective? Same heroic style American war movies are created. Yeah, I wouldn't mind. World War I was one of those wars where there wasn't really a right and wrong side. It was just a bunch of countries all drawn into this big conflict. So it would be perfectly fine to have a movie told from the German point of view.
Yeah, World War I was a massive clusterfuck.
Yeah,
even understanding how it started is a clusterfuck.
Yeah, it's kind of complex and probably more than we've got time to go into here. But look it up; it's actually really interesting because it kind of shaped the entire 20th century. Spectre von Baron, Drinker, you handsome devil, is your avatar an actual picture of yourself? Yeah, it is. But then someone also produced an artwork version of it. It was the boss on Twitter. She just did it off her own back, and I used it because it looked awesome. And the original one was like a low-res screen grab that I did from a previous video. But that is actually me. That's what I look like. Although my beard's changed shape a bit, but that's pretty much it. Von Nete Rex, cheers, Drinker. Hope to see you again on EFAP soon, perhaps the upcoming Mandalorian episode. Yeah, I was just talking with Mahler while we were on this stream, actually. I'd invited him on, but he was too busy tonight, but he's asked me to come on EFAP soon, so I'll be doing that. Ruba the Hutt, why did they reshoot Solo? Was it too woke? No, as far as I understand it, it was 90% of the movie was done by Lord and Miller, and they did a really kind of comic take on it. And I think a lot of it was improvisation. And basically, Kathleen Kennedy and a few of the other people at Lucasfilm looked at it, and they were really unhappy with what was produced, and so basically just fired them and replaced them with someone really dependable and solid in Ron Howard.
Yeah.
And he was there to salvage it, and that's why they did the reshoots, as far as I understand it, anyway.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much it. Although Kennedy, there's only, I think, 2 Star Wars movies where our friend, he's back again. But there's only 2 Star Wars movies that hasn't had firings, although that's the one that got the furthest into production. But yeah, it's the ultimate. They took a comedy and tried turning it into a serious movie, and then we ended up with Solo.
Yeah. Josh G, so glad to catch a live stream. I'm a traveling salesman, and all 3 of you are the soundtrack to my road trips. Thank you for all the great content. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad we can entertain you.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Samantha Digga, I haven't drunk enough to be here. Well, that's fine. You can always, the stream lasts for like 4 hours or something, so you can always catch up. If you don't watch 1917 in a theater and don't have a home theater, honestly, don't watch it at all. Also, please filter Brie Larson in your chat. Okay. Yeah, I think you could probably get away with watching it at home if you've got a decent TV, but yeah, watching it in IMAX is quite an experience. It's an incredible film. The Rossicante, sorry if I'm butchering your name, the juxtaposition of Critical Drinker and known AA member Nerdrotic is amazing. Yeah, I try not to reference that too much when he's around because I don't want to offend him. But yeah, he takes it in good spirits, so it's fine. Alexandra Briere, JJ has no respect for writing, lore, or anything really, aside from his ego so well oiled by the inner circle. Yeah, I think he does. I think he likes Star Wars. He does love it. May not love it, but he does like it, and he wants to try and emulate it. He just doesn't know how. Whereas someone like Rian Johnson has absolutely no respect for it and doesn't like it and wants to destroy it. So that's the difference between the two of them. It's a man with very little skill and a man with no ideas, basically.
Yep.
Automata, just for working that Event Horizon screaming to so many vids makes me chuckle every time. Yeah. No, I do enjoy it. Ian Morrison, Patrick Stewart segue. Excited for the June release this year. Opinion on the original film. Yeah, the original was a good effort, but it was nothing like the book, and it missed out so much. I didn't like it that much, to be fair. Mr. Montage, eliminate the troll. I think we have.
Yeah, I've been doing battle. He comes back every 3 minutes or so.
It's a shame we can't just kill him off completely, but never mind. Great show, guys. Thank you very much. You want a show to review? Look up Justified, starring Timothy Oliphant. Great show, great dialogue. Cool. I'll keep that in mind. Drinker, you loquacious, liquored up lover. Sorry if this has been asked of you, but have you seen HBO's His Dark Materials? Any thoughts on it briefly, or if you haven't, if you don't plan to? I do plan to see it. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I'm hoping to have more time soon and take a look at it. I do like the trailer. It made it look quite promising, and I like the kind of setting of it. But beyond that, I don't really know much about it. I don't know if Bowlestrek, have you seen any of it? His Dark Materials?
No.
Okay. Cool. But Drinker, you mellifluent speaker of uncomfortable truths, is Picard message that a female-led communist utopia will inevitably collapse into a dystopia of racists and murderers? It could well be. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you put more women in charge, then things don't turn out so well. I didn't say that. The show said it. You know.
Yeah. Well, the show is saying that. Yes.
I'm just trying to make an objective interpretation, but maybe that's what they're trying to tell us all along. Drinker, is the chat more like an asylum with unruly patients that haven't gotten their meds, or more like a bunch of serial killers that have a good long nap and are now giddy? I love your chat. I like to think that our chat's a mixture of both, to be honest. Yep. Hey, Drinker, do you seen the Dave Cullen show? Yeah, I do watch it occasionally, actually. I like Computing Forever and the Dave Cullen show. I think he covers a lot of good stuff, and I really like his movies reviews. He's very analytical and very thoughtful about it, and I like his stuff. And one day maybe I'll have him on the stream. It'd be great.
I've been subbed to Computing Forever for I think a little over 10 years, back to when Dave only covered computer stuff. So. I've watched that channel grow from, I don't even think he had 1,000 subscribers when I first subbed. So following it from the beginning to where it is now, which is a massive channel. I believe he's well over 500,000 subs now.
Yeah, I think YouTube's suppressing his channel though.
It is. Yeah.
Because he's got something like 600,000 subscribers, and like on Computing Forever, like his latest videos are getting like 20,000-30,000 views. Like that's getting suppressed. Like there's no way.
He's shown the analytics. It's definitely happening.
Yeah, and that's pretty crap, really, because he produces good content. Well, anyway, Sebastian Gorka donated $2. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Chris Jones, have you seen the 2019 Dark Crystal series Subversive? I haven't, unfortunately. No.
Will probably, but as of yet, no.
Drinker, can we get you on my national radio show in the US, Sebastian Gorka? I don't know. Hit me up on Twitter, on DM, and let me know what you'd like to do, and maybe we can sort something out. That'd be good. Mudcrab, do an Orville on DW. That was what I meant. Do an Orville on Doctor Who, presumably. That's what I meant. So are you meaning like just kind of take the piss out of it and have it be like a kind of quasi comedy show? You could do. I think the difference is the Orville has like got a core of sincerity about it with a veneer of like comedy on top. I think that's the difference. Whereas the Doctor Who's got like a veneer of sincerity and a core of like comedy and just making fun of the original show. So
the Orville has toned down the comedy as they've gone on.
Which is good. I think that was always the intention, really. They just had to do comedy to get it by. The Fixer, it's been 6 years since I watched TV and paid my TV license. The shit the BBC put out isn't worth 150 quid a year. Yeah, I fully agree. I think actually you can pretty much just opt out of paying the TV license, especially if you live in Scotland. I don't think they enforce it all that well. So
Yeah,
you probably should just do that.
Just watch Netflix and Prime.
Yeah. John Ochiltree, what's a good cocktail to make with Iron Brew? Probably the best thing to mix with Iron Brew is vodka. Iron Brew and vodka is a good mixture. Don't mix it with whiskey because it tastes horrible. I don't know if you can mix it with gin. Probably wouldn't recommend it. Samantha Dega, Brewdog, bitch. Stewart and Williams Bros, no tea. Yeah, don't drink Tennent's. It's shit. And I actually, it's literally made with ethanol. And they just add flavorings to it. And sometimes they add water into it if the mixture's too high. So it's literal rocket fuel. So don't drink that. Andrew Clark, hello, my Ewoks. Drinker, it's RA like the Egyptian. It's raw like the Egyptian. Okay. Thomas Hayden, do you watch any anime at all? Yeah, I like the Studio Ghibli stuff. I love Castle in the Sky. That's one of my favorite ones. And I love Metropolis. I know that's not Studio Ghibli, but that's an absolutely fantastic movie. And I'd recommend it to everyone. And Samantha Dega, make Australia less shit. All love to John Cadigan. Okay. Be less shit, Australia. You've got fantastic people in you. We know you can do it. And stop burning. God,
yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah.
Stop setting everything on fire. Last one, Sharon Osbourne, genius. Thank you.
How's Ozzy? Is that the actual Sharon Osbourne?
Probably, yeah. I like to think it is. Let's pretend it is.
Okay, so Sharon had acknowledged us. Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Sharon.
But that brings an end to the super chats, and it brings an end to my sanity and my ability to focus on the screen in front of me. I will probably have to wrap it up pretty soon. But I want to say, Bowlestrek, as always, thank you very much for appearing on the stream tonight. It's been great to speak to you, and it's been great to have you answering super chats and stuff. If I may ask, what have you got coming up next? What's your next thing?
Well, and yes, Drinker, thank you very much for having me on again, which is awesome. These are always some of my favorite streams to do, and yeah, we will definitely be collaborating again. So what's up for me in the near future? I will be reviewing Doctor Who and Triggering the Universe, so that's going to be going on. I am working on a video on Picard, which I'm hoping to have done within the next week. I'm also trying to get another Batwoman video out. I just have to find the time to do it, and I'll be working the day job on top of that. So yeah, the Trigger train may be giving up on sleep, and I think you got a few more super chats.
This is what people do. It's like whenever we're trying to bail out, it's like, yeah, we're going to send a bunch of super chats because we have to reply to them. We will. You know what? I will do it just now. Bowlestrek, like I say, thank you very much for being on the stream. If you want to stick around for these last couple of super chats, you're more than welcome. If you want to drop off just now, again, it's totally fine, man.
I'll stick around. I can do a few more minutes.
We're going to do this to the bitter end. Okay, let's do it. Luciats, TV license is literally impossible to enforce. Just tell them to fuck off if they come to the door and they can't do shite. Stop paying and let the BBC die. Well, if you say it's okay, then that's fine by me. Like I say, it's something I've been thinking about for a while anyway. And honestly, I don't feel like I want to support the BBC's content anymore. So
I wouldn't be.
Just stop paying. And yeah, as far as I understand it, I don't think they can enforce it in Scotland. So Dylan Barrionis donated $5. So thank you, man. Let's just check and see if there's anything else. I feel like there's
one more.
I feel like there's other things that have pinged up.
Yeah, one just came through.
Oh yeah, Sharon Osbourne, freedom. Yeah, freedom. We're now in Brexit land, so yeah, we are free. And John Ochiltree, thanks for saying my last name right. Yeah, that was presumptuous, sir. I had to mangle that one to get it out. But that brings us to an end. So I'm gonna end the stream.
No, it's not. You got another one.
Oh, what the fuck? I feel like I'm trapped in some prison here. What's this? Irresponsible Captain Tyler is a good anime. Old but really good twists. Irresponsible Captain Tyler. Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
I'm not an anime person, so yeah, I'd be oblivious. Oh, and you got another one.
You guys are just playing with us now, aren't you? Is the which a really bad drinker? No, it's not. This is what I was saying. I was saying that to Nerdrotic, and I don't know if like I gave an unfairly harsh review, but I was just trying to pick out the problems with the storytelling. My overall impression of the show is that it's got a lot of potential. Fundamentally, the characters are pretty good, and I liked it. I just think it could use a bit of work on the world building, and I think the non-chronological storytelling was probably a bad idea for a fantasy show that you're just getting into. I think it made it kind of inaccessible. But I think they're going to abandon that in season 2 and tell a more linear story, and that's fine by me. So, yeah, I overall I give it a kind of thumbs up, but it's with a few caveats. The last couple of fucking more super chats.
Yeah, we got some more.
Go to bed now. I will walk 500 miles, and I will walk 500 more. Yeah, just to be the man that walks 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. There we go. Yeah. I actually watched them perform live once. They were really good.
Yeah, cool. No, another one.
Do you feel your sanity slipping away? Yeah, I do. And that's all the chat has for today. Go away now. Yeah, and on that bombshell, I am going to end it. That is all I have for today. Go away now.